No! No! No, no, no! Oh no.
Stop shouting.
Huh? You can speak? No! No, no, no!
Don't even try to escape.
Ah!
Wow. Okay, I got it. Jeez. No need to swing your fist here. These savages can't even eat in peace.
Daddy longlegs get a pretty bad rap. Someone started a rumor for some reason that of all the spiders in the world, the daddy longlegs are the most venomous. Of all the 45,000 species of spiders, daddy longlegs were at the top of the charts as the most potentially dangerous. Gifted with the most threatening venom towards humans, they acquired quite the reputation. But unfortunately, their fangs also were too small to penetrate skin, so their amazing capabilities were deemed useless. Imagine having a superpower without the ability to use it. This fact might have come from someone's friend of a friend a long time ago, and unfortunately for old bouncy legs, the fact stuck. The daddy longlegs spider is recognized throughout the world, but its actual name is Falcidae, which is part of the Araneomorph family. The Falcidae consists of up to 1,800 individual species, all ranging in different sizes and variations, most having the distinct similar long bouncy legs with a small body. They are present on every continent of the world except Antarctica, but regardless of which part of the planet they're from, they all share that same supposed reputation of impressive venom, with no teeth to use it. The origin story of how their venom was recognized as so strong was that they were notorious all over the world for being able to remove other, more dangerous spiders. Any spider that was known to be threatening towards humans competed for territory with the daddy longlegs and lost. They defeated redbacks and black widows, even larger spiders like huntsmen. Every competitor was beaten. And for that reason, this ridiculous spider became the undisputed world champion. From the northern hemisphere to the south, from Australia to North America, in Africa, Asia, and all around Europe, the daddy longlegs took on all challengers, removing venomous spiders from households all over the world. As its reputation grew, it was portrayed that it must have the strongest venom, as no contender could match it. And there the legend rested. Actual facts were neglected, like cobwebs in the wind. But in fact, their venom is incredibly weak, so weak that it's not even very useful. It has little effect on the more venomous spiders, and is only useful towards smaller insect prey. But it does have a different, more impressive way of defeating all challengers in the spider world. Rather than bouncing over and trying to wrestle a foe awkwardly, the daddy longlegs casts its silk web onto its contenders from a distance, whilst keeping itself away from harm. Then, once it's safe, it ties them up until they're completely incapacitated. What's more, their own silk doesn't have any adhesive properties, so when they come for another spider, they usually roll it in its own sticky web. They're basically the cowboys of the spider world. coolly lassoing all dangers of the household, removing hazardous spiders and all other pesky insects. And for their selfless assistance, the only gratitude we've provided are urban legends about their supposed inadequacies and a quick removal with a vacuum cleaner. It's a shame to remove the daddy longlegs from a house, as they are passive towards humans. They reside in dark and cool places where moisture is more prominent, like a bathroom or a basement. Since they're predators, they will only live where there is a constant source of food. So if you see them in your house, then that's a good indication that you have a lot more types of bugs living in other, more inconspicuous locations. Understanding that there are more bugs under your hard-to-reach places, removing the daddy longlegs is effectively removing a bug remover, who not only works for free, but is a much more efficient hunter of bugs than your vacuum cleaner. They will not only remove the resident bugs, but all the hundreds of eggs that are hidden away, incubating, preparing to hatch in the near future. Perhaps the thought of them being a hunter may give you some apprehension of keeping them around, especially as you sleep. Further with the myth that a human inhales up to 10 spiders per year on average while sleeping. Since they don't mean humans any harm, there's no need to worry, especially given the difference in size. Predators generally won't attack anything they can't successfully take down, which won't be anything much larger than themselves. Given humans are over 1,000,000 times bigger in size, we just aren't worth the risk for any spider, even if we're sleeping. The myth that we eat spiders in our sleep is false. There is nothing for a spider to hunt for around a human. A giant, meaty, growling mountain is the last place to find a spider trying to find its dinner. But if you do have a bad case of arachnophobia and are brave enough, simply get an empty jar and a piece of paper. Carefully place the daddy longlegs in the jar and release it into the backyard. They're more than happy to live in the bark of trees or under rocks, protecting your garden from other insects. There are 3 types of daddy longlegs: the spider variety, the crane fly one, and the Apeliones, which are more related to scorpions than spiders. The Apeliones have helped provide confusion with their spider counterpart, sharing similar features, residing in the same parts of the world, and even known for the same misinformation. In particular, for the urban legend of being the most venomous. Not only do these not have any venom glands, but they don't even have fangs, just grasping claws. Due to these physical traits, they are restricted to prey on small insects. Though their diet partially contains bugs, they are omnivorous, also feeding upon plant material and fungi. So, the Apeliones are mainly found outdoors, unless you happen to be growing mushrooms in your basement. Their primary defenses are to avoid detection, camouflaging themselves in foliage whilst holding very still, and sometimes placing debris on top of themselves. Some species will have bright coloring to ward off predators, and others will have a similar appearance to other insects to create confusion, all in the hopes of avoiding becoming a meal. As they aren't strictly an aggressor in the wild, they have a multitude of secondary defenses to avoid conflict. Using their long legs, they might retract or stretch them to resemble becoming inactive and pointless in being attacked. Also, they might bob up and down with the objective to confuse, constantly moving their small body. They do this individually, and as they can live in very large groups, they will collectively move this way when threatened. Their long legs, although strange in appearance, are one of their best assets. As well as dancing defensively, they can also flee very effectively, bounding over obstacles with ease. Normally, when in groups, they will all scatter in different directions. Their best defense is their scent glands, providing a smelly shield to ward off predators, letting them know they won't be a tasty meal. Although they can't physically defeat any spiders, the scent gland defense is known to help avoid some of the most brutal of spider predators, such as the wolf spider. Another effective way to deter predators is the form of mimicry, quietly pretending to be another insect, and likely trying to appear like its spider counterparts. This act of defense has probably helped the confusion between the daddy longleg species. The crane fly is the last of the 3 that represent daddy longlegs. It looks like a giant mosquito and lives in similar areas around marshes, rivers, and lakes. With the typical traits of its namesake, the long drooping legs, it's known as the worst flying insect. Its limbs are so large, it wobbles as it flies, looking like it's struggling to maintain its flight. The crane fly's larvae are also known as leather jackets due to their tough outer skin. They're very important in the soil ecosystem as they process organic material, increasing microbial activity. So why are they even called daddy longlegs? There isn't anything scientific behind the meaning. There was a mention of the crane fly back in 1744, referring to it as father longlegs. In the early 19th century, daddy longlegs had become a nickname for a person that was much taller than everyone else. Whether the name was originally made for tall humans or for long-legged flies, as time went on, all other insects and spiders around the world that had the similar physical traits, long legs with a small body, would also be referred to as daddy longlegs. I guess it was just easier that way.
Well, meet the tiny terrors of our world. Fire ants. When they sting, they inject venom that can cause serious trouble. For most people, it's just a fiery sensation in raised bumps. But for others, especially those who are allergic to it, it's life-threatening. These ants set up their camps right under your feet. They're quick to swarm and are fiercely protective of their colonies. They show no mercy to intruders. Their stings are rated about 1.2 on the Schmidt Insect Sting Index, where 4 is the maximum. It feels like a sudden jolt, but the sensations are less burning than when a bee stings you. They originated in tropical regions like Central and South America, but now you can find them even in some temperate zones like North America. In their colonies, fire ants have a strict hierarchy: a queen, winged males and females, and different types of workers. They communicate through chemicals and sounds. The most famous member of this genus is the red imported fire ant. They've come from South America and invaded the southern U.S. They build large mounds, making farming difficult and damaging crops. It's almost impossible to control them. And on top of that, there's now the rise of another invasive species, the tawny crazy ant. This one poses a threat to native ecosystems. Turns out ants can be dangerously unfriendly. Colorful blister beetles are among the 10 most dangerous insects in the world. Luckily, they're not lethal to humans unless they go for you in a big pack. However, they pose a serious threat to large animals such as horses. Blister beetles produce a toxin called cantharidin, which causes skin blistering in humans. In the past, people believed it could treat warts and even rabies, and some even used it in love potions. However, it's a risky game. In the 1950s, a man was jailed for giving cantharidin-laced candies to 2 women, resulting in a tragic outcome. These beetles are not to be messed with. Handling them or ingesting them is very dangerous. They're attracted to alfalfa and hay. If a horse eats either of those, even a few beetles can release enough cantharidin to end it. This cute caterpillar from South America is called Linomia obliqua, and it's the most dangerous caterpillar on Earth. It's responsible for several fatalities due to its potent venom. It's the larval stage of the giant silkworm moth. When it grows up, it becomes a beautiful and harmless silkworm. But if you see them as youngsters, it's better to stay away. Its toxicity stems from venom-injecting bristles. They serve as a defense mechanism against predators. The poison messes up how your blood clots and can cause really bad symptoms like burning feelings, throwing up, kidney problems, and sometimes even lethal outcomes. A single bite probably won't lead to anything horrifying. It delivers only a tiny amount of venom. But these caterpillars tend to congregate, and they're quite good at camouflage. This increases the risk of multiple stings. Locusts themselves aren't dangerous to humans. They're ordinary, loud grasshoppers. But they're infamous for their swarming behavior. These swarms often happen when there's a dry period with no rain, and then suddenly a lot of rain falls and plants start growing fast. Once it begins, it's nearly impossible to stop. They can become a destructive force within minutes. Throughout history, locust plagues have been devastating, wreaking havoc on crops and farmland. What's interesting is that the term locust can mean different things depending on where you're from. In some places, we're talking about cicadas, which are also known for their loud sounds. But true locusts are ancient creatures, relatively unchanged since the Triassic era. They're among the oldest insects on Earth. Wasps, hornets, and even bees can be extremely dangerous, especially to those allergic to their stings. The Asian giant hornet is the largest of the wasps. It can reach up to 2 inches in size. It packs a powerful venom that can cause serious discomfort and even spray into people's eyes. There's an even more venomous species in the Philippines called Vespa luctuosa, not to be confused with Expecto Patronum. Any Harry Potter fans? Anyway, fatalities because of wasps or bees are rare but not unheard of. In the UK, about 10 people pass away each year from bee or wasp sting reactions. Always stay cautious. All these insects are very territorial and will fiercely defend their hives. When provoked, they signal danger to nearby bees and instigate a mass defense effort. If you need to handle them, it's best to call professionals. A flea is tiny and humble, but it left a colossal impact on human history and health. They're not just annoying pests, they're notorious carriers of various human conditions and are responsible for some of the worst outbreaks in history. Back in the 14th century, I forget where I was, but the bubonic plague wiped out over 25 million people in Europe, and fleas were a big part of spreading it. Fleas spend their lives searching for warm-blooded hosts to feed on, whether it's reptiles, mammals, pets, or humans. Despite their tiny size and absence of wings, they make up for it with impressive jumping abilities. They can leap 6 feet and jump over 1,200 feet in the air. A flea bite might seem like a minor annoyance, causing itching and inflammation, but a lot of them can lead to anemia in their hosts. Of course, the most dangerous part about them is the viruses, bacteria, and worms they transmit. Kissing bugs mostly live in both Americas, with smaller populations in Africa and Asia. Despite the friendly name, they're great at passing on bacteria, viruses, and parasites. One of the parasites they carry is Trypanosoma cruzi. It's the culprit behind illnesses that affect millions globally and claim thousands of lives each year. What's interesting is that symptoms don't often appear until 10 or 30 years after being bitten. They typically manifest as heart failure, digestive issues, or nervous system problems. They don't actually kiss you, they suck on you and are attracted to their prey by breath. If you breathe through your mouth, you're a target. They're messy biters, often biting chaotically and almost uncontrollably, which only adds to their unsettling nature. Many have heard of the tsetse fly, an unusual and scary insect from tropical Africa. These flies are carriers of one of the most devastating human diseases, sleeping sickness. Similar to the kissing bug, the tsetse fly transmits trypanosomes, the parasites that cause sleeping sickness. They acquire this parasite from an infected host or from within the fly's own body. Sleeping sickness doesn't strike immediately. After a bite, it takes 1 to 3 weeks for symptoms to appear: fever, headaches, joint pains, and itchiness. As the illness progresses, it can invade the nervous system, leading to confusion, insomnia, and loss of balance. Without treatment, it can result in a coma and then a fatal outcome. Luckily, sleeping sickness can be treated, and the number of losses is declining. The tsetse fly holds historical significance too. Its presence has hindered European colonial expansion in Africa. And the crown of the most dangerous insect in the world goes to the mosquito. It's no surprise why. Despite their small size, they wield a massive impact. They're not only responsible for more human losses annually than any other animal, but they've also left an indelible mark on history. These little insects influenced the rise and fall of entire civilizations. For example, malaria significantly weakened ancient civilizations, such as in Rome and Greece. What's interesting is that it's not just the mosquitoes themselves that are dangerous, but the parasites. Bacteria and viruses carry and transmit through their bites. These tiny horrors spread a buffet of diseases. Despite malaria, there's also yellow fever, which, just like with the tsetse fly, hindered European colonization efforts in tropical regions. The scariest one of them is the Anopheles mosquito. It's the apex predator of the insect world. It's responsible for more fatal outcomes and illnesses than any other insect. So, how do we combat these tiny yet mighty foes? With prevention. We need to eliminate standing water in our surroundings and practice mosquito control measures. We must always stay one step ahead to protect ourselves and our communities from dangerous insects.
Ah, summer. Beaches, flawless tan, and cicadas buzzing so loudly that you can hardly hear yourself think. That's probably the only time we think of them, but things will be different in 2024. Millions, even billions of cicadas are just quietly waiting under our feet for the perfect day to emerge. A cicada apocalypse will happen soon, and the last time we faced such a terrifying situation was in 1803. Cicadas. They've existed for about 5 million years, and there are over 3,000 species in the world. No big deal. In the eastern US, you have basically two different types. First, annual cicadas. These are the ones you probably hear during the summer. Although they have this name, it doesn't mean they actually have an annual life cycle. The nymphs, which are what their babies are called, can spend up to 5 years underground until they emerge. The second type is periodical cicadas, which are a different species that emerge every 13 or 17 years. In fact, this is the longest life cycle out of any insect in the world. In 2024, there will be a synchronized event that people are calling the Cicada Apocalypse. This time, 2 different broods of periodical cicadas will sync their life cycles. So, brood 13, which arrives every 17 years, and brood 19, appearing every 13 years, will emerge at the same time. This situation is so rare that it won't happen again for another 221 years. We're talking about billions of these insects emerging across the Midwest and Southeast of the United States. It might all start in late April and last about 6 weeks. It's expected that one type of cicada will emerge mostly in Illinois, while the other type may cover a much larger area, including Missouri, Louisiana, North Carolina, and Illinois. Yep, it turns out that these 2 broods share some geographical areas, so if you live in Illinois, you'll be in for a double whammy. The same goes for Indiana. Now you might be asking yourself, what are these cicadas doing during those 17 years? Besides, planning their apocalypse? Well, they're living underground without sunlight, but they're not sleeping. They're very much conscious and active in their nymph forms, excavating tunnels and feeding on sap from tree roots. When they reach the age of 17, they check if the temperature is suitable for them to emerge, and they are very picky about that. They only emerge when the soil about 8 inches underground reaches 64 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why cicadas in different parts of the United States appear at different times. The soil in Virginia might reach that ideal temperature before the soil in Illinois, for example. But one thing is for sure, once the correct temperature is set, all the cicadas in that specific area will feel it, and they will make their journey to the surface together. They'll start by digging their way out of the soil and trying to climb as quickly as they can to a nearby vertical structure, like a tree. Once there, they will shed their exoskeleton and reveal their wings as grown adults. This journey has one purpose and one purpose only: to reproduce. And for that, they will engage in a noisy search for a mate. Thank God humans don't do this. The cicada apocalypse will be pretty much it. I know, it is a bit of a buzzkill, isn't it? You don't have to fear it because cicadas are not dangerous at all. They don't bite or sting. Cicadas aren't even harmful to your garden plants. They're just noisy. So having billions of them emerging from underground means that their noise will make a lot of people go crazy, as it lasts for 3 to 4 weeks. What makes cicadas so noisy is essentially having a built-in musical instrument in their bodies. On one side of their abdomen, they have a groovy exoskeleton structure called a timbal. When it's time to make noise, they flex and relax these muscles around the timbal. The frequency of these contractions is crazy fast, up to 480 times per second. That is so quick that human ears perceive it as a continuous sound. By using the timbal, cicadas produce chirping, clicking, or snapping sounds. Their high-pitched buzz or mating song can reach up to 100 decibels. It's kind of like listening to a motorcycle or jackhammer non-stop, or at least until their life cycle ends. Experts have a piece of advice for those with sensitive hearing. You can remove yourself from certain environments to decrease noise exposure, which is cold comfort. In other words, don't go near cicadas. One disgusting consequence of the cicada apocalypse is that people will probably face a lot, and I mean a lot, of insect carcasses scattered all over the ground, and a bunch of exoskeletons covering trees and bushes. Plus, when the brief life of an adult cicada is about to end, they tend to fall to the ground, land belly up, and stay completely still, apart from a twitch or two, and that can be a little disturbing. If you're grossed out just by picturing a carpet of crunchy exoskeletons, I have to say that not everyone feels the same way. Some people are very much fascinated by these insects, so much so that there are groups actually planning vacations to observe this rare phenomenon up close. There's also an app called Cicada Safari that maps the insect's range by allowing people to take pictures and report cicada sightings. This is not just a hobby. This app helps scientists to understand how cicadas are adapting during these cycles and what their next moves are. Besides insect enthusiasts, and the actual cicadas of course, one more thing we'll be really glad about this twin brood event: nature. When those insects appear above ground, they not only provide food for predators like birds, but also serve a vital function by aerating the soil and helping roots get oxygen. So what happens after they all rise? Let's take these two cicadas as an example. The male sings and the female loves his special song. They fall in love in their own way, and by that I mean laying eggs in holes in a tree. So they keep doing that for a few weeks until the female lays around 600 eggs. Just a few. After that, their work is done. So it's like the sad ending of Romeo and Juliet's story. They both lose their lives. And that's why the cicada apocalypse ends with a pile of exoskeletons on the ground. Now let's talk about their babies. 6 weeks later, the eggs will hatch and the baby cicadas will drop to the ground. They'll continue the cicada tradition by burrowing themselves into the earth, just like their parents did as kids. These particular nymphs will remain underground for the next 13 or 17 years until they rise again. You may have noticed that I always say 13 years and 17 years without adding words like about or around. That's because their cycle is pretty much like clockwork. And it's quite complicated to explain how cicadas know exactly how many years have passed. Many scientists speculate that periodical cicadas have some kind of internal molecular clock. You know how trees go through their seasonal cycles, right? During this process, the composition of their sap changes, and cicada nymphs underground feed on that sap. So this might be how the environment provides them with clues about the passage of time. By the 17th time, the trees complete their seasonal cycle. Cicadas get the final clue. It's time to emerge. Although this is an interesting thought, no theory has been proven. While we're waiting for a proper explanation, prepare yourself for the cicada apocalypse by getting noise-canceling headphones, earplugs, or white noise machines. If you're still grossed out by their looks and your plan is to travel far away, don't worry. It will be the first and last time you will have to do it, since the next double brood event will happen only in 2245.
Get ready to witness the ultimate showdown in the world of insects as they battle it out in the Insect Combat Championship. Here, the arena becomes their octagon, and their instincts collide in a spectacular display of strength, agility, and strategy. We've brought together a diverse array of contenders from the insect world, showcasing their incredible abilities. From the lightning-fast strikes of the praying mantis to the calculated strategies of the honeybee, let's see who this year's ultimate champion will be. Starting with our little buzzing friends. Honeybees, these incredible creatures work their tiny wings off, carrying around loads of nectar. More so, a worker bee can carry over half its own weight in nectar and still manage to stay up in the air. But that's not all these amazing bees do. They're like little architects too. They take charge of building their hives, putting together the intricate structure that we all know. Apart from their amazing strength, they also have a secret talent for construction. And let's not forget about their bravery. When it comes to protecting their home sweet home, these tiny warriors take on the role of defenders. They don't back down in the face of predators. They stand their ground and ensure the safety of their fellow bees and their precious hive. Unfortunately, in this year's competition, the honeybees only managed to snatch 6th place. A round of applause, please. Moving on to the mighty cockroach. Not particularly a fan favorite. Either way, cockroaches do hit the jackpot when it comes to survival skills. For starters, they can survive for a whole week without their heads. Also, if they have access to water, they can go without food for up to a month. They can also be lightning fast. Cockroaches are some of the speediest crawling insects. This way, they can find shelter and escape from predators, or shoe-wielding humans. Now, let's talk about their incredible senses. The cockroach species that are frequently found in America is equipped with a multitude of smell and taste receptors. This makes them experts at finding food sources nearby. Unlike other insects with limited diets, cockroaches are opportunistic eaters. They'll happily chow down on meat, cheese, cardboard, and books. Their versatile eating habits give them a better chance of survival when their preferred food options are scarce. Let's not forget about their strong exoskeletons. It gives them the ability to withstand compression forces up to 900 times their own body weight. Their exoskeletons consist of overlapping plates connected by a stretchy membrane, which allows them to flatten out and provides extreme strength. Even if something is dropped on them, their specially designed spines enable them to transfer traction to their legs, allowing them to escape the pressure unharmed. In our contest, they came in at a reasonable 5th place, so let's hear it for the highly resistant cockroaches. Have you ever heard about our next contestant, the rhinoceros beetle? It's quite a remarkable little creature. Who would have thought that a tiny insect could have more strength than an elephant? Well, not in terms of absolute weight, of course, only when it comes to proportional strength. Elephants can only carry around a quarter of their own weight, while the rhino beetle can carry a mind-boggling 850 times its own weight. So, what makes these insects so incredibly strong? For starters, they are about an inch long and have incredibly strong muscles. But that's not all. These beetles are masters of balance. They always make sure to keep at least 3 legs on the ground at all times, which gives them an amazing sense of stability and leverage. This is what allows them to lift such heavy objects with ease. Living in tropical jungles and forests, rhino beetles need all that strength to navigate through the dense jungle floor. You see, they have to push aside branches and debris in search of their favorite food. That's how they got their name, by the way, because of the rhinoceros-like horn on their heads. It's not just for show. They actually use it to move obstacles out of their way. Now, don't be fooled by their fearsome appearance. Rhino beetles are anything but ferocious or dangerous. They have a pretty chill diet consisting of rotting fruit and sap. Despite their horned and intimidating look, they won't bite or sting. These gentle insects are harmless and definitely not looking to pick a fight. They also came in at number 4 on our list of strongest insects, so let's give them a round of applause, too. Make room for our next contestants, the leafcutter ants. They are pretty amazing creatures, known for their incredible strength, with jaws that could give any weightlifter a run for their money. There's this specific type of leafcutter ant called Acromyrmex echinacea, and it turns out they have something really special in their exoskeleton. It's like a super tough armor made of this thing called biomineral. This armor is super strong and covers their whole body. No other insect has been found with this biomineral armor before. The only other creature that has it is a sea urchin, and it's found in its powerful teeth. Experiments have shown that leafcutter ants with this armor tend to win when they're battling with other ants. Not only that, but this armor also does an awesome job of keeping fungus at bay. Leafcutter ant nests are no joke either. These things are like underground super cities. They've got thousands of chambers of all different sizes, all connected by tunnels. Should you ever find yourself strolling through the rainforest, you might be walking on top of a bustling metropolis of leafcutter ants. Now, some areas in a leafcutter ant nest are called fungus garden chambers. In a large enough colony, some of these are actually big enough for a full-grown human to stand inside. Leafcutter ants didn't win the competition, but they did make it to the podium. Congratulations on their 3rd place win. Don't let our next fascinating contestant trick you. At first glance, the praying mantis may seem delicate and fragile. In reality, this insect has an intricate anatomy that is built for both strength and precision, making it truly unique among its six-legged buddies. Let's start with its head. Shaped like a triangle, it sports large compound eyes that can rotate a full 180 degrees. This nifty adaptation allows the mantis to effortlessly scan its surroundings for potential prey. More so, its elongated thorax, connecting the head to the abdomen, provides a stable base for its powerful forelegs. Speaking of those forelegs, they are the mantis' most iconic feature. They have sharp spines and a special joint that lets them fold and unfold in a flash. This adaptation not only gives the mantis its name, but also contributes to its incredible hunting skills. Picture a pair of spring-loaded sticks that can snatch unsuspecting prey faster than you can blink. The mantis also has a lightweight exoskeleton and a flexible body, which adds to its strength and agility. The praying mantis took second place in our competition, so congratulations are in order. Now that we've reached the top of the pyramid, the waiting is officially over. The grand prize for the world's strongest insect goes to the dung beetle. This little critter isn't just your ordinary insect. It's actually the strongest insect in the world. And believe it or not, it's the strongest animal on the entire planet. Proportionally, that is. One species can pull over 1,000 times its own body weight. That's the equivalent of an average person effortlessly tugging along 6 double-decker buses filled with people. There are a few factors that contribute to their incredible strength. In addition to their hard exoskeleton, dung beetles have seriously strong leg muscles. Their legs are uniquely designed for digging and pushing heavy loads. They also have a low center of gravity. This helps them maintain their balance when they're carrying or rolling stuff that is much larger than their own tiny bodies. Dung beetles aren't just strong, they're also super speedy. These guys can zoom around at speeds of up to 0.67 miles per hour. That's quite impressive for such a small creature. There are insects in nature that love to make a lot of noise. Imagine you're at a rock concert where a singer loudly yells into a microphone and the guitarists give out deafening chords. And all this is transmitted through giant speakers. It feels like the music passes through your body. You will experience a similar sensation if you find yourself near a swarm of cicadas. These creatures create a clicking, ringing sound with the help of vibrating membranes on their stomachs. The awakening of cicadas is always a surprise for people. Any day you can wake up to a loud noise outside. Cicadas gather in huge swarms, fly out into the streets, and cover cars, trees, and buildings. They chatter for weeks, and then silence comes. Cicadas disappear as suddenly as they appear. The cicada's sounds can be pleasant or harmful to your ears depending on the species. It can be something melodic and captivating. When millions of cicadas click in the forest, it resembles the sound of a jet plane or a circular saw working. Some people can't stand it and run away from the singing swarm. But many also say that cicadas make a pleasant sound that envelops you from all sides, which is a pretty unusual feeling. They make this noise to attract breeding partners or to warn their families of danger. Perhaps they are just having fun. And the reason for such joy is their life cycle. Cicadas spend several years underground and then come out to make noise for the last several weeks of their lives. And what they do under the surface is one of the most exciting mysteries for scientists. So, cicadas are physically strong insects with big eyes and unique wings. We'll talk about their uniqueness later, but now let's figure out why these insects are so awesome. There are about 3,000 species of cicadas, but they are all divided into two groups, annual and periodic ones. Annual is a common type. You can meet them all over the world. They live from 2 to 5 years or longer and have a normal insect lifestyle. They fly, drink the sap of trees, and click. But periodic cicadas live only in North America, in the central and eastern regions of the USA. They can disappear as a species off the face of the earth and then, a few years later, appear in a forest and make such noise that you can hear it from afar. Imagine walking in the woods, picking mushrooms and berries, And then the soil begins to move, and hundreds of thousands of cicadas are flying out. They are everywhere, and they are very loud. But don't worry, they're not aggressive and won't bite you. The life cycle of these insects is divided into 3 parts: eggs, nymphs, and adults. At first, females lay several hundred eggs in different places. They leave their offspring near the ground on the branches of trees and brush. Then, after 6 to 10 weeks, little nymphs hatch out of them, fall to the floor, and burrow into the soil. There, they munch on fluids from the roots of plants and grow. They spend 13 or 17 years in these underground tunnels, then molt their shells and come out. And they all do it at the same time. It's as if someone gives them one order, and they drop everything to come to the surface simultaneously. And after they rise, they start to click. Imagine spending more than 10 years in a cramped, dark space, and then going out into a bright, open world where you will live for several weeks. No wonder cicadas are chirping so loudly. Or they may have a great time underground, and then decide to spend their retirement outdoors. Most likely, their appearance coincides with convenient natural conditions. They wait for the soil temperature to become comfortable for reproduction and come out. However, while the soil heats up and gets colder annually, cicadas come out once every 13 or 17 years. Scientists can't give an exact explanation for this, but it may be related to other animals. Cicadas are pretty defenseless and nutritious creatures. A swarm of millions of cicadas is a feast for many forest inhabitants. Owls and foxes like to eat them. Suppose the forest ecosystem gets used to the annual singing of cicadas. In that case, their enemies will quickly destroy the entire population of these insects. Therefore, cicadas come out when no one expects them. Perhaps they choose the moment when the population growth of owls and foxes is at the lowest level. To avoid meeting them, cicadas wait for several years. This version looks logical, but something doesn't work in it. If cicadas fight for survival in such a way, then why don't all species do it? Annual cicadas regularly appear in the forest and are an integral part of the ecosystem. They continue to exist despite the presence of many enemies. Why do periodic ones decide to hide? This is still unknown. A massive swarm of cicadas resembles locusts. So many consider them pests. But unlike these crop eaters, cicadas only feed on the sap of trees. They won't eat your corn, destroy your garden, and bite the leaves. Cicadas drink juice from branches and roots, and they do it quite rarely. Yes, 1 million cicadas can damage trees because of their relative weight, but the damage they cause to people is not comparable to what locusts do. Besides, cicadas will rarely bother you. You can finish university and change several jobs, and the cicadas would come out only once during this time, and they also look pretty cute for insects. Their wings have beautiful patterns, and their eyes are so huge. However, they can still terrify you, especially if you meet a swarm of cicadas on your way. Life underground seems safe, but even there, the cicadas have their antagonists. And the main one is a special kind of parasitic fungi that can penetrate the body of a cicada and slowly devour it. The fungus takes control of the body and turns the host into a living zombie. These parasites have also learned to change their life cycle, following the life cycle of cicadas. That is, the fungus remains in the body of an insect for a long time and does nothing. And then, when the cicada comes to the surface, the parasite wakes up and begins to spoil its life. It feeds on the host body and forces it to spread the fungus spores throughout the swarm to infect future generations. Another type of fungus doesn't wait for the cicadas to crawl to the surface. These parasites can cause infected insects to get out of the ground ahead of time, crawl up tree branches and scatter spores. Sometimes fungi grow out of cicadas while they are still underground. It seems that cicadas won't survive with such dangerous enemies, but nature has found a balance. Some types of fungi don't destroy their carriers. They live in symbiosis with cicadas. The parasite gets a home, and the cicada probably gets nutrients from the fungus. For scientists, this is a unique case when fungi abandon their parasitic lifestyle. With each emergence to the surface, the cicadas become bigger in size. This happens because large cities emit a lot of heat and nutrients into the air, warming the area by several degrees. This contributes to an increase in cicadas' size. But the growth only applies to those insects that live near cities. Cicadas hiding in rural areas with colder temperatures retain the same size. The uniqueness of cicadas is not only in their life development, but also in their anatomy. When insects become adults, their wings get covered with tiny nanopillars that can repel water, destroy bacteria, and self-clean. Doctors, chemists, and engineers want to use the properties of cicada wings to develop new technologies in different fields. A coating with the cicada's nanopillars can help people create new medicines. Engineers want to use self-cleaning surfaces of the wings without glare as coatings for solar panels and other high-tech developments. So, yeah, cicadas actually help us a lot. Have you ever noticed how insects seem to get bigger in certain parts of the world? Take Australia and the Amazon rainforest, for example. They're notorious for having some of the largest and creepiest crawlies around. What's the deal with these hotspots of insect activity? Warmth plays a part in insect growth, but it's not the only factor at play. You won't get bugs that large out in the desert, for instance, despite the heat. The real secret lies in their access to water. In tropical and subtropical environments, there's usually plenty of moisture to go around, which means a year-round supply of delicious snacks. Speaking of snacks, that's where things get interesting. The warm, wet environment creates the perfect conditions for an all-you-can-eat insect buffet, which allows insects to grow and thrive over time. This is true for rats too. Just look at the giant rodents that live in cities, where they can feast on all kinds of garbage and scraps. For bugs, the perfect gem is usually found near the equator, in places like Central and Southern America, parts of Africa and Asia and Northern Australia. Have a look at this one. It's special not because of its large size. Humans rarely see this insect. It's a wood moth and was spotted at a school in Australia. The school is close to a rainforest. It holds a record for being the heaviest moth in the world. It had a wingspan measuring up to 9 inches. In Australia, there are about 60 species of wood moth. Yet many aren't as big as the giant wood moth. The students get to face many animals on campus, such as bush turkeys, koalas, and snakes. But according to the principal, seeing a wood moth was a brand new thing. When we start talking about insects in Australia, it's also hard not to mention spiders. They are impressively big. Again, it's all thanks to the warm climate and abundance of food sources in the Australian bushlands. Like most cold-blooded animals, spiders tend to grow bigger in warmer places. The Australian climate, especially in the northern and central parts, is hot and humid, making it the perfect environment for spiders to grow and thrive. Spiders are also sensitive to temperature, so warmer climates provide them with longer periods to grow before reproduction. Australia's vast bushlands provide more insects for spiders to prey on, making them bigger and stronger. From the crab spider to the Australian bird-eating spider and the huntsman. Although they may look scary, most of them are not dangerous to humans. Now we can take a deep, relaxing breath. So, how do Australians handle big spiders without going crazy? I mean, we are talking about a country that is home to about 10,000 species of spiders. Australians treat spiders with respect despite the cases of spider bites. They acknowledge that these creatures are not here to scare people. They're an irreplaceable component of the ecosystem. When they face a spider at home, they call the experts if there's no one brave enough to capture the spider and take it outside. Here are some weird-looking animals from Australia. I must admit some look creepy, and some look cool. This one here is a hot pink slug. It has a striking bright pink coloration, which is believed to be an adaptation to their environment. This creature is among the rare and endangered species. You can find it only in a single place, Mount Kaputar National Park. It's near an isolated forest on an old volcano. Insects are part of everyday life in certain parts of this country. A person was mowing the lawn and a surprise was waiting for them. They discovered this 14-inch tall insect. And this person was kind enough to fill the bird bath on a hot day. Then they noticed that birds didn't go near the bath. They wondered why and checked it out. Well, hello there. Next up, we have this giant insect, and it's still alive. Why is it such a shocking thing? Because, it was declared extinct nearly a century ago. I guess it's back from the other side? It's the Lord Howe Island stick insects, aka the tree lobsters. These giant bugs, measuring about 6 inches, used to call this place their home sweet home, but black rats had other plans. These rodents invaded the island, gobbling up everything in their path, including the poor stick insects. By 1920, the bugs were officially declared extinct, but as fate would have it, they made a comeback more than 40 years later on Ball's Pyramid, a volcanic sea stack located 12 miles away. But here's the twist. The new and improved stick insects look slightly different from their ancestors, leaving scientists scratching their heads, wondering if they were the real deal. After some scientific sleuthing and DNA testing, the verdict is in. They're the same species. With less than 1% genetic difference, these plant-eating critters are ready to make a triumphant return to their homeland. We're about to take the creepy crawlies to a whole new level. In Australia, there's a centipede that'll make you want to crawl out of your skin. I must also say these animals are nocturnal too. Can you imagine waking up with one of these 6-inch long centipedes crawling across your foot? Have you ever seen an insect that looks like it came straight out of a science fiction movie? Well, let me introduce you to the Australian walking stick. If we showed you a picture of this creepy crawler, you'd probably think we had some mad Photoshop skills. But no, this stick insect is as real as they come. It's hard to believe such a bizarre-looking creature could actually exist in nature. This just goes to show how incredible and mind-boggling nature can be. Picture this. You're wandering through your garden, minding your own business, when suddenly you walk face-first into a sticky web. Before you have a chance to freak out, you see the culprit, a garden orb weaver spider. These nocturnal creatures might look scary with their large, hairy bodies and red-brown to yellow markings, but luckily they're harmless to humans. In fact, having them around can be a good thing, since they help to reduce insect pests like mosquitoes. Their webs are truly a marvel of nature, strong and nearly invisible, with a large capture area for prey. And if you accidentally break their web, don't worry. They'll usually get the hint and move somewhere else. So go ahead and enjoy your garden, but watch out for those sneaky garden orb weavers. Check out this hefty Aussie critter, the burrowing cockroach. Unlike those pesky flying roaches, these fellas are wingless and not considered a nuisance. They've got a vital role to play in the ecosystem, munching on fallen leaves and recycling other organic matter. You might find them chilling out in a cozy burrow. In fact, they're the only known cockroach with a permanent subterranean abode. These crawlies are practically celebrities in Brisbane, where they're even kept as pets. Our next subject is the Hercules moth. This little thing can only be found chillin' in New Guinea and northern Australia. Now let's talk about why the Hercules moth is so impressive. For starters, it's massive. It boasts a wingspan of 11 inches, making it the biggest moth in all of Australia. Not only that, but its wings have a surface area, making it the largest of any insect alive. Talk about impressive. When it comes to appearances, the Hercules moth is mostly golden brown and white, with see-through spots on each of its 4 wing sections. The coloring and patterns don't differ too much between males and females, but the males have longer, skinnier tails on their wings. The thing about these types of animals is that you never know where they'll fly. Will they land on your shoulder or the tree next to you? Have you ever encountered a giant insect? If yes, what did you do? Tell us your story.
So, you're at home, enjoying your evening tea under a warm blanket, when all of a sudden you see a huge, no, enormous mosquito. Its long and gangly legs have a span of your palm, and it clumsily bumps into all the obstacles it meets. Despite its awkward appearance, it's still terrifying. What if it carries malaria? What if it eats you alive in your sleep? Slowly, not to draw the monster's attention to yourself, you get out from your soft chair and run for it into the bathroom, lock yourself in there, and open the browser on your phone. After a few seconds, you draw a ragged breath of relief. Turns out it's just a crane fly, not a mosquito at all. It might look like a ferocious beast, but it's actually peaceful and even defenseless. Many crane flies don't even have mouths, so they don't eat at all, and those that have a mouthpiece will only munch on sweet flower nectar. Crane flies are really clumsy in the air. Their rather short wings are no match for their huge bodies and long legs, so they're slow and it's easy to catch them. Birds and frogs, as well as bats and cats, love them as a treat. The only way they can avoid being eaten is by losing a limb. Their legs easily break off even when nothing touches them. And if you're still unconvinced not to scram and set your house on fire when you see one, consider this. Crane flies can tell you if the water pool you're about to swim in is of good quality. If you see these bugs on or above the water, you're good to go. Even more, fishers often make their bait look like the crane fly larva. This makes it more appetizing for the fish. But while Googling, you get engrossed with reading up on some other weird and crazy bugs. For example, here's the human-faced stink bug. Nah, they don't really stink, at least for humans. They give off pheromones that attract other stink bugs, letting them know there's food nearby. The most peculiar feature of it is in the name. A man-faced stink bug has a face on its back, with 3 black dots drawn in red. The vibrant color of its back warns predators that the bug isn't tasty or even poisonous, while the black eyes draw attention from them to the vulnerable head. Saddleback caterpillar's name is also quite telling. It looks like some creature from another planet with a bright green saddle over its back. And the saddle is, sadly, the only safe part of the thing to touch. The spines you see all over the rest of its body are sharp and highly poisonous. If you want to give it a friendly tap on the back, make sure you don't touch anything else. Well, we have a titan beetle next. Meet the largest beetle in the whole world. It can grow as long as your entire palm, complete with fingers. Seeing one in the wild can be a shocking experience, especially if it flies right in your face. But don't fret. Thankfully, this giant is placid and won't bite you if you don't mean it harm. Still, if you make it angry, never let its mandibles touch you. The bug will hiss and bite, and what such snap can crack a pencil in half. What's interesting, an adult titan beetle doesn't feed at all. It doesn't need food to survive. As a larva, it gets enough energy to keep it well-nourished even when grown up. Ooh, I love that ability. An even more menacing-looking bug is a giant weta. Living in New Zealand, these cricket-like creatures look like someone forgot to lock the portal to the infernal. A massive, beefy body with 6 thorny legs, long alien-looking antennae, and big mandibles that just might cut steel. Well, in fact, these giant insects are quite peaceful and won't bite unless provoked. And even if they do, it's not as bad as you might think. There are videos with wetas biting hands of people holding them and doing no harm at all. So don't let it scare you, even though such an insect might weigh more than a full-fledged sparrow. Atlas moths look like they have 3 heads, 2 of which are serpents. These pretty nocturnal flyers have strange shapes on the tips of their wings that look like snake heads. This seems to be their mode of defense from predators. And that's also why they're sometimes called cobra moths. In Southeast Asia and India, where they normally dwell, atlas moths are often found on butterfly farms producing silk. And that's some sight. The wingspan of one such moth can reach 10 inches. That's larger than your hand. Peacock spiders are perhaps the cutest arachnids in the world, second maybe only to their jumping cousins. They're so tiny, you probably wouldn't even notice one scrambling through your kitchen. But if you get a chance to take a closer look, do it. Peacock spiders are beautiful. They have large, beady eyes, a shiny blue and red coat, and cute fuzz on their body and legs. And their mating dance is something else entirely. Too bad they only live in Australia. Another moth on the list, the hummingbird moth. Remember the atlas one, how huge it was? Well, this one's as big as a hummingbird and holds much more resemblance to its namesake than that. The speed at which it flutters its wings, the long tongue to drink flower nectar, and even the sound it makes when flying, all of it makes you wonder if it's really a moth after all. Of course, the fuzzy critter is absolutely safe, and you should consider yourself lucky if you ever see one. Long-horned orb weaver spider is one of the most unusual arachnids in the world. It's just your regular spider in all respects, but for some reason, it boasts two long curved horns on its back. The back itself is bright orange to ward off predators. Red means danger. But scientists are still unsure why this spider needs those prongs, so there's a web of mystery for you. The soft rustling of leaves underneath, a pile of them slightly moving, and a big mighty horn shows up. It's the Hercules beetle, one of the largest beetles on the planet. Almost half of its size comes from that horn on its head. Thanks to this wonderful appendage, you know exactly it's a male. Females don't have it at all. Yet the name comes not only from the horn, but from the amazing ability of this giant to haul extremely heavy loads. Its strength is second only to dung beetles. A Hercules can carry as much as 850 times its own weight. If you ever see a bug with 5 heads wearing a pointy cap, no, you're not on another planet. It's a Brazilian treehopper. Straight from a sci-fi movie and onto your screens here, this insect is a real mystery. It's small and secretive, and much is still unknown about it. No one knows why exactly the treehoppers have these fuzzy balls on their heads. But they've only got one head after all, that much is certain. Going for a swim in a freshwater pond somewhere in the African tropics. Watch your toes, you can get a giant water bug hunting them. It's a predatory bug and the largest of its kind. With those huge pincers, it's no wonder it's commonly known as an alligator flea and a toe biter. The bite of this water-dwelling monster is really quite powerful. It grabs its prey with the front legs and then slowly munches on it. And when I say it's a predator, I mean it. Giant water bugs' favorite food is fish and amphibians. Despite their name, scorpion flies aren't related to scorpions. They get this moniker thanks to their tails, which look a lot like the notorious arachnids. Seeing a flying scorpion is a daunting sight at best, but fear not, these critters are small and gentle, and they can't even bite you. Only the males have such a tail, and they use it to attract females. Hey! What do you imagine when you hear the words walking stick? Certainly not a bug, but that's exactly what it is. Look at this twig and try to guess. Is there something alive on it or not? Yes and no. This twig is not a twig at all. It is a walking stick. These insects have developed a fascinating camouflage. They're long and unassuming, able to stay still for hours on end, which makes them look like dry twigs. But as soon as you touch one, it scrambles away on its gangly legs. Thanks to their appearance, predatory birds often miss walking sticks in the dense foliage, and their Australian kin give off a pleasant scent, something like peanut butter. Ooh, yum. Looks like a normal garden, right? Zoom in just a little. More. A little more. Okay, pan to the right. No, you're right. Bingo! What's that you're looking at? A stick? Wait a minute. Ah, there it is! Now that's what I call camouflage. The mantis is a beast in the insect world. Its preferred menu? Other insects, and birds, and frogs, even mice. These mini machines come in many sizes and colors and are found in almost every corner of the world. Most of them are green or brown to blend in with their surroundings, but others like to put on something flashy and are always dressed for the occasion. These powerful insects are a farmer's best friend. They chomp up all the vermin and parasites, leaving the fields nice and clean. Ah, good old mantises. And look at that, it's making its way to another branch. Its large front legs act as a grappler and hook to latch onto anything that strikes its fancy. Those legs have sharp spikes on them, and getting caught in that grip would be the last place you'd want to be. And its back legs are powerful enough to lunge itself at anything tasty. there's no chance for escape. And besides looking mean, they're fast, like blink of an eye fast. They catch their daily meal without even breaking a sweat. Pretty flashy. And they don't like to waste time. They start eating their lunch while it's still alive and kicking. Ooh. But enough about the mantis. Let's go down to ground level. Ooh, check out that snake in the grass. Cunning little thing. It's a small snake, only about a foot long, and it doesn't eat anything outside its strict diet. It feasts on little insects, birds, and mice. It slithers its way onto the tree, not knowing the mantis is there waiting, disguised as a twig. The mantis sees everything. It's able to turn its triangular head a full 180 degrees to get the perfect view. It has 2 compound eyes and 3 other simple eyes squeezed in between. Definitely not afraid of a little eye contact. The snake slides its way up the tree trunk and inches its way closer to the mantis. They lock eyes. The snake launches itself and bites into the mantis's leg. The mantis slips and falls down the tree. Just in time, it manages to reach out and hang onto a small tree branch and regain its balance. It sinks into its signature fighting stance. Woo, that was quick. No preparation, no warm-up, nothing. The snake slithers its way down, and once again, they're face to face. They stare at each other. Who's going to make the first move? A mantis usually lifts its arms in the air and expands its back wings to make it look larger when it's getting threatened. Remember the Karate Kid? Yeah, just like that. But not today. It's confident enough against this puny grass snake. The snake, meanwhile, doesn't know what to expect. It's never faced such an alien-like creature before. It's like a stick, but also looks delicious. Confusing. After a second, the snake makes another lunge. It opens its jaws and tries to bite the mantis, but it misses. The mantis dodges easily and grabs hold of the snake's neck. It tries to take a bite, but the snake wiggles free in spite of the mantis's sharp spikes on its legs. The snake's free, but the damage is done. Those spikes penetrated the snake's thick skin. 1 point for Team Mantis. But the snake isn't quitting anytime soon. It surprises the mantis with a sneak move and catches it off guard. But the mantis manages to do a little hop, a little jump, and grapples the snake to the ground. And this particular mantis is snake-size hungry. TKO, if you know what I mean. The snake never had a chance. But it might not end so quickly if the mantis was facing a hornet. Now we're talking. A flying beast with a beefy stinger versus a quick-footed, clawed fighting machine. Okay, we got time. Let's do it. The mantis stands guard, motionless. It turns its head around, and all 5 eyes scan the sky, the ground, watching, waiting. So far, nothing. The ground is clear and the sky is a spotless blue. Then, a quick shadow-like movement flashes across the sky. The mantis couldn't get a good look at it. Another swoosh and a flash of color, this time from behind. Something's toying with the mantis, trying to weaken it psychologically. But the insect holds its ground. A true mantis doesn't flinch. This time, the hornet flies right past it. Those buzzing wings make a sound like a mini helicopter. The mantis is prepared and double-checks its equipment. It looks down at its front legs to make sure they're ready for anything. It's a game of patience. Who's going to show weakness first? The hornet swoops down and tries to sting the mantis. But the mantis is fast enough to move out of the way, but not quite fast enough to grab hold of the flying beast. It'll have to wait for the hornet to come around again. Then it'll be ready. The mantis needs to time this thing just right. If it can get the perfect angle, it can grab hold of the hornet and wrestle it down. But the hornet is too clever. It keeps coming in at different speeds and angles. The mantis is used to ambushing its opponent, so just waiting around to be stung isn't its favorite activity. But it's quick enough to ward off any attacks. Another flash, and the hornet surprises the mantis from behind. It knocks it down. The hornet almost engages its stinger, but just misses. The mantis sees its chance. It gets back up, but one of its back legs is damaged. This could be a huge advantage for the hornet, since the mantis needs both back legs to lunge and pounce. It wobbles around a bit, trying not to appear weak. Speed and counterattacks aren't an option anymore for the mantis. But at least the hornet isn't as quick as a snake. Even without its back legs, the mantis is still powerful. The hornet comes in from another direction and tries to sting the mantis, but the mantis shifts position and manages to escape. But as hard as it tries, it just can't grab hold of the hornet. The hornet flies up higher than ever and uses gravity to build up some serious speed. It misses again, but the impact of the diving hornet damages the mantis's other leg. It can't move. It looks like it's all over. There's no way for the mantis to escape. The hornet decides to go in for one final sting, but this time the mantis actually grabs hold of the hornet. Without the use of its hind legs, the mantis can't seem to pin it down properly. The hornet manages to hover a little, straining to fly away to safety. The mantis's weight pulls it back down. The more they wrestle, the more the mantis's spiky front legs start to dominate. They grip the hornet tighter and tighter, digging their spikes in deeper and deeper. The mantis sees this as an opportunity to start biting the hornet, but the hornet also has powerful jaws and bites back. Meanwhile, a small little housefly watches in the background, frozen in fear. "Shoo, fly! You shouldn't be here. It's dangerous. Buzz off." The scuffle breaks apart as the hornet is somehow able to escape the mantis's grip and crawl away. Crawl, not fly. The mantis was able to damage the hornet's wings. The mantis digs deep and finds a hidden energy reserve. It crawls up to the hornet and manages to grab it again, this time from behind. This way, the hornet won't be able to sting the mantis or even bite it. The hornet can see what's about to happen, and it's helpless. The mantis's claws are locked in way too tight. The mantis begins biting. It may have a smaller jaw than the average hornet, but it's quick and just as powerful. I wouldn't want to be on the other end of those jaws. The hornet tries everything, crawling, flying, jumping off the branch, but nothing works. It succumbs to the mantis's claws and its never-ending appetite. Another stunning victory for the amazing mantis. Now, aren't you glad middle school wasn't like this? You know, scorpions are interesting little creatures. 6 legs, 2 claws, and a powerful stinger. Now, what if humans also wore exoskeletons to protect themselves? So an exoskeleton's mainly made up of chitin, which is a complex material found in insects and reptiles. Thanks to their exoskeletons, these tiny creatures can defend themselves and perform acts of superhuman strength. If you wore a scorpion exoskeleton, you'd be able to climb up any building you wanted. With massive claws in the front, it would be easy to grab hold of things and even cut through them. Might be hard to open a bag of chips, though. But at night, you'd have problems, UV rays. They wouldn't hurt you or cut through you or anything, but you'd definitely glow in the dark. Not exactly ideal for sneaking up on someone. A scorpion's tail is venomous and packs a nasty sting. You could use it to sting anyone in your way, plus it's long enough that you could defend yourself from a safe distance. Scorpions live all over the world in some of the harshest environments, from freezing icy landscapes to scorching hot deserts. If it freezes, a scorpion can even thaw itself out under the sun. This next creature also has 2 claws and 6 legs, but it doesn't have a stinger. It's the mighty crab. Its shell is a lot more powerful than a scorpion's, and it's surprisingly quick. So you'd be seriously powerful in one of those. The downside is you'd only be able to walk sideways, and you'd be delicious to someone like me. There are almost 5,000 species of crab all over the world, each with special skills. In a crab costume, you'd definitely be a master digger. Sure, you'd be doing it sideways, but those legs and claws can get the job done. If there were crab-inspired bodysuits, they'd most likely be made for digging. You could even work underwater. You'd be agile, strong, and you'd look awesome. Humans in ant suits would dominate any construction site. Ants live in colonies around most of the world and rely on strength in numbers. But that doesn't mean each little ant's weak or anything, just the opposite. There are actually already exoskeleton suits out there to help humans do some heavy lifting. But to use the actual strength of an ant would be a game changer. An ant can lift around 1,000 times its own weight. In a group, they can drag a bird across a field without breaking a sweat. What's even crazier is that they can carry things while they're climbing straight up a wall, or even upside down. Wow! Imagine a group of humans dragging a jet fighter up the side of the Empire State Building. There wouldn't be any need for bulldozers or cranes anymore. Just strap into an ant suit and get her done. Buildings could be inspired by those huge underground ant colonies. Ants are amazing at making tunnels. Imagine wearing a bodysuit that flies through the air like a stealth craft. If you wore a hornet suit, you'd have it made. They have a tough exoskeleton that's surprisingly light and easy to maneuver. Picture a fleet of strong flying acrobats. Oh, and don't forget the stinger. Most people think of hornets as pests, but they're not. They do a lot of good for the ecosystem, like eating up those pesky mosquitoes. Having a hornet suit would be essential for any kind of undercover work, not so much for office work. A strong aerodynamic bodysuit with a powerful stinger? Hey, sign me up! An armadillo uses keratin to make its bodysuit. You know, the stuff your hair and nails are made of? What makes it unique is that it's foldable and durable at the same time. It's made up of hexagon-shaped plates that go all over its back. When there's danger around, it can roll up into a ball. Scientists are studying how to make durable bending glass just like the armadillo's body plates. Humans wouldn't be 100% protected with this thing on, but they'd be able to withstand pretty much anything. You could jump out of a plane, no parachute, land on a rooftop, brush it off, roll off the edge, and land safely on a nearby car, all while being chased by tricked-out cars and helicopters. Nah, I've been streaming too many movies. Being one of the slowest animals on Earth does come with an advantage. You got a heavy shell on you 24/7 for protection. Just like armadillos, tortoise shells are made of keratin. What's sweet about its shell is that it grows with the tortoise. Crabs and other shelled animals have to keep replacing theirs as they outgrow them. Humans would be almost invincible if they wore tortoise suits, but they'd be insanely slow and draw a lot of attention. Still, if something goes down, you could just hide in your shell and wait it out. Hopping around from place to place would be pretty sweet, but what about flying? Grasshoppers can do both. They have a set of wings they tuck in behind them, which they unleash after their epic takeoff jump. Oh, and they come in all shapes and sizes, great for camouflage. Now, a grasshopper can jump around 10 inches high and 3 feet long. Far? Out? Well, that far. Anyway, it's all thanks to its back legs. Grasshoppers basically catapult themselves when they feel threatened or when they see something delicious. If you had a grasshopper suit, you'd be able to jump a whole football field in one go. You can forget about being stuck in traffic. It might not be the most powerful armor, but with those jumping skills and landing skills, getting your weekend shopping done would be a breeze. Or you could be the world's coolest pizza delivery person. Just imagine the tips. The biggest animal on this list doesn't really have an exoskeleton, but it does have a thick skin. This massive beast's one of the most powerful mammals on Earth, and it comes with a strong horn near its nose for protection. Any guesses? Now, it might look scary, but that humongous rhino's an herbivore. It's not going to eat you. But rhinos do attack when they feel provoked, so keep your distance. Their thick skin makes them look like a tank, and it keeps them nice and warm. Now, with your rhino suit on, you'd have a monster advantage over the average human. The thick skin suit would be really useful for extreme weather conditions, cold or hot. And a horn on the top of your head would send a pretty powerful message. And it's not just beep beep. Jaws that look like antlers? 6 legs? Meet the stag beetle. Its oversized jaws are used for impressing its friends and sometimes for a little wrestling. But don't worry, these fearsome jaws aren't strong enough to hurt you. A human stag beetle suit would be pretty weird if you saw one walking down the street. But who knows what people will be into in 10, 20 years? Maybe this will be the future of wrestling. Now, this reptile has the toughest skin of its kind. Crocodiles are fearsome animals, virtually unchanged since the days of the dinosaurs. Our modern-day croc is still top of the food chain, with scales on its back and a very soft underbelly. Its scales are made from some of the most durable materials out there. And don't forget that powerful jaw. It can crush watermelons like chewing gum. A human croc suit would be fast, strong, but mostly limited to hanging around lakes and rivers. It'd be a great thing to be wearing during a game of hide-and-seek, though. You're it. This last creature takes the grand prize, toughest exoskeleton ever. It's smaller than a rhino for sure. Presenting the ironclad beetle. Even the name makes people's knees weak. This beetle has interlocking wing covers that make it twice as strong as it should be. But get this, it doesn't even fly. Yeah, it doesn't need to escape from danger. Whatever you throw at it, it can't be hurt, dented, or even crushed, not even by a car. These beetles can live up to 2 years, way longer than other beetles who only stick around for a couple of weeks or months. A human suit based on the ironclad beetle? Wow, that name gets me every time. It'd probably be resistant to just about any collision. Walking through moving traffic would be like strolling in the park on a warm afternoon. This suit would be perfect for deep-sea exploration since it's resistant to pressure. That'd make it excellent for outer space adventures, too. Hey, little guy, want me to pet your back? This is a denkimushi, or electric beetle in Japanese. One touch, and you'll feel a strong shock. But these beetles don't have any electricity running through them, just a special toxin all over their body. Over time, this larva transforms into a small moth with a wingspan about the length of a match. You're out with your friends and one of them tells a lame joke. That's a cicada. While they're common all over the world, they are borderline iconic in Japan. They live underground, and when they're old enough, they crawl out and start singing. When a cicada sheds, it literally leaves its entire body behind, like an empty clone. You can see thousands of empty cicada bodies in just one tree. After that, the cicada can finally call itself an adult and is the size of your big toe. The sound of a cicada singing is the Japanese code for summer. Turn on the TV and you'll hear it in movies and cartoons. And this little guy is a skunk, the insect version. Luckily, it's only the size of a nail. It's called a stink beetle. If you touch it or scare it, you'll be covered with a gross smell. Kind of like cilantro, but way worse. It smells pretty bad, and you'll have to wash your clothes, but otherwise, it's not that dangerous. They're always hungry, and a serious problem for Japanese farmers. Stink beetles like to eat fruits and plants. They pierce the outside with their little trunk and suck out the goodness, like an all-natural juice box. They're also a problem in winter. Stink beetles love to sneak into houses through any cracks they can find. They get confused by the warmth of the house and think it's a romantic hotspot. Stink beetles usually breed there. One female can lay up to 30 eggs, and before long, there's a flood of baby beetles all over the house. Pretty good opening scene for a horror movie. The Japanese mountain leash is a great dancer. Check out its moves. This thing is the perfect little hunter. It hides on the ground, in the grass, or up a tree, waiting. As soon as something tasty passes by, it attacks. Best of all, it walks like a slinky. Japanese mountain leeches are stealthy too. You won't notice them right away. They'll hide under your clothes or even in your shoes. Then they inject you with a little numbing toxin so you don't feel the bite. Lastly, feast time. Their tiny mouths have small, sharp teeth, and lots of them. This is a house centipede. This guy's a great addition to your cleaning team. It eats other harmful pests. It catches flies, cockroaches, termites, and fleas. Even though it looks a bit gross, let it do its thing. And it's fast. Imagine a sports car in insect form. It can run at over a foot per second when chasing its prey. But don't be scared, you and your beloved pets are completely safe. House centipede teeth are too small to bite humans or household pets. But this centipede has a big, scary brother. Meet the giant centipede. This monster grows up to 1 foot long, and it doesn't only hunt small insects. This thing hunts scorpions, spiders, lizards, even mice and rats. They've even been known to attack bats and birds. The main thing to worry about is its venom. It can hurt quite a lot, and its bite can cause serious swelling. But don't stress too much, you'll be fine after a few hours. Warning: if you're scared of spiders, get ready for a fright. This is the huntsman spider. It's not one of those spiders that spins a web in the corner and waits for insects to get trapped in it. This one jumps out at its lunch and tackles it to the ground. It's fast and powerful, with legs up to 11 inches long. Well, the good news is that these spiders aren't venomous. You might freak out if it lands on you, but that's about it. The Japanese giant hornet, on the other hand, pretty serious. Its sting can reach the size of a sunflower seed, and its wingspan is so big that it's sometimes called a sparrow bee. When it feels under attack, this hornet sprays venom on its target. This venom is like a beacon for other hornets. They latch onto the location and start attacking also. Their venom is extremely dangerous, especially if they all attack at once. They're not only ruthless, but also incredibly tough. They can fly up to 50 miles a day. Joro spiders couldn't be more different. They only grow to about half an inch, but their webs can reach 3 feet. Since their thread is yellow, it looks awesome in the sunlight. Scientists have added the protein of this spider to ordinary silk to make it much stronger and more durable. Joro spider silk is used in tennis rackets, fishing lines, and nets. It's so strong, they might even start using it to build houses. In Japanese fairy tales, the Joro spider has a very unusual role. It sometimes turns into a woman, befriends a man, and then ties him up in its golden web. Wow. This beautiful insect, kind of like a butterfly, is called an owl moth because of the 2 spots on its wings. And as cool as it looks all grown up, it's even better when it's a baby. Owl moth larvae grow up to 3 inches long and have long tentacles, similar to fishing hooks. Some people think they use them as a protective mechanism. Now, let's get on a plane to New Zealand. This is a giant weta, one of the biggest insects in the world. It's kind of like a giant cricket with grasshopper legs. They can weigh up to the same as a tennis ball. This next one's right out of a sci-fi movie, part fly, part scorpion, and part pelican. It's a scorpion fly. It has a long beak, eyes and wings like a fly, and a bent tail like a scorpion. But it's harmless. It only grows to about the size of your thumb, and sure, the tail looks dangerous, but it's just for show. It can't sting you. The puss moth caterpillar. Don't let the name fool you. It doesn't look much like a cat, but it does have short hair. Still, I don't recommend petting it. There's toxin on its fur, which causes severe skin irritation. Some say the pain from this toxin feels like boiling hot water on the skin. So, if you're traveling to the southeast US or Mexico, make sure you look before you pet. The Titan beetle from South America. Like the name suggests, it's from South America. It's also one of the biggest insects in the world. Some grow to almost 7 inches. Its jaws can bite a pencil in half, and it's been known to attack people, but only when it's defending itself. These massive beetles don't live that long. After hatching from larvae, they only last a few weeks. Oh, and did I mention they're from South America? This is the Goliath bird eater. It's the largest spider by weight, about the same as a can of tuna, and is the longest spider by length of body, about the length of a chocolate bar. What a nightmare! Despite the name, Goliath bird eaters rarely eat birds. They mostly like worms, toads, lizards, and snakes. Yum! Nah, don't worry, you'll probably live your whole life without seeing one in the wild. Goliath bird eaters live in the rainforests of, wait for it, South America.
Wow!
The Hercules moth. What a great name! This moth's wings are bigger than the palm of your hand. It's super interesting even when it's still in caterpillar form. Hercules moth caterpillars grow up to 4 inches long. The best thing about them? They have small spikes all over their body, just like a mini hedgehog. The Maricopa harvester ant. It's one of the most venomous insects in the world. Its venom has a special chemical in it that acts as a signal for other ants. So when one ant bites, they all rush out to share in the fun. Right. The kissing bug. This little bug's also called a vampire bug. Why? because it likes to eat its midnight snack, vampire style. It sneaks into a nest and goes hunting at night when it's colder and the host is sleeping. Some species like to live with humans, and they especially like to nibble near the mouth. Camel spider. This insect, about the size of a phone, is somewhere between a spider and a scorpion. Its hairy legs look scary, but its bite's not that dangerous. It prefers hot and dry weather, so bear that in mind when you're planning your next picnic. So, had enough big creepy bugs? Yeah, me too. See you next time. Detective Barkley looked at the files before him and frowned. He was investigating a series of bank robberies around the city. He'd never seen anything so brutal, yet so masterfully done. The vault doors were just torn apart, and the only clue to what happened was the melted edges of the tears, as if someone had used a blowtorch, but it must have been hot as the sun. The detective yawned and got up from the desk when the phone rang.
Detective, another robbery downtown. The central bank this time. Come urgently.
Barkley sighed and donned his raincoat. This was going to be a long night. When he arrived, a police squad was already there, but one thing caught his attention. There were witnesses, unlike in previous cases. Two people were sitting at the back of the ambulance, cowering under blankets. Barkley asked the cops to keep them there until he returns and went inside. The picture was the same as usual. Thick metal doors blown down, vault empty, no other traces. Barkley went to question the witnesses. From their words, he gathered they stayed late to finish up some business. When suddenly, the bank door flew open and three people wearing black face masks came inside. They seemed surprised to see someone in the bank, but one of them pulled up the bottom of their mask and spat into the employees' faces. The stuff smelled awful and was obviously toxic. But before they lost consciousness, they heard the robbers come into the vault, saw a bright flash, and went nearly deaf from the boom that followed. Then they both fainted, and when they came to, there were only the police and the ambulance around. Barkley wrote everything in his notebook and rushed back to the bank, eyes hard on the floor. Yes, a few drops of transparent viscous substance was left on the floor, just as he suspected. He asked the specialist to gather it and send to the lab for analysis. So there were three robbers, and at least one of them had insect powers. These mutations appeared worldwide more than 100 years ago as a result of a cataclysm. Millions of tons of toxic were spread in the air and water, but nobody felt any difference until a new generation was born. Almost 70% of babies received insect genes and acquired superhuman abilities. And of course, not everyone put them to noble uses. There was a knock on the detective's office door, and his partner, Detective Woods, came in. She was a former K-9 unit trainer, as she had the abilities of a tiger moth, pulsing ultrasound signals that only animals and insects could hear. Woods approached Barkley's desk in 3 long strides and put a folder on it with a smug grin on her face. "Take a look," she urged. As Barkley looked through the folder, his eyes went wide. "But this means we got him on a dish," he finally exclaimed. "Exactly," Woods replied. "Let's go get him." They drove, without flashing lights not to attract attention, to the address where Jeremy Blythe was supposed to live, a guy they'd taken in 2 years previously. The lab results showed his DNA in the sample from the bank. They quietly got out of the car and went inside the rundown 5-story building. Detectives tiptoed to the apartment, conscious of the squeaking floorboards, stopped before the door and exchanged looks. As Barkley got ready to kick in the door, it suddenly flew into pieces, and a huge figure rushed at them, stamping them both against the opposite wall. Dazed, Barkley only noticed two other silhouettes running away down the corridor, and then the giant let them go and started away too. He was seemingly wearing heavy black and white armor. Barkley requested backup, but when the squad arrived, it was already too late. The culprits were gone. In the apartment, they found more of the viscous fluid and a shell. An empty black and white carapace, looking as if it were fit for a human. "He's molted," Woods said. "Yep," Barkley replied, "and this gives us another lead." The lab exam showed the carapace belonged to another old pal of the police, Anthony Steele. He had the armor of an ironclad beetle, the toughest material in the world. Only a diamond circular saw would cut it. Barkley sent an officer with dragonfly wings and vision to look out for Steele in his neighborhood, and invited Woods to his office. "Look, I've drawn a map of their activities. See the pattern? No. What if I finish it like this?" Barkley looked at Woods for reaction. "It's a spiral?" "Almost. It's a shrimp. I think I know who the third guy is and why he's the boss." Detectives were lying in wait near the bank that was the robbers' next target according to the map. They'd spent 3 days surveying the vicinity and getting ready for the assault. Finally, on the 5th day, 4 hours after the bank had closed for the day, they saw 3 figures approaching the building. One of them was huge, and it shouldered the bank doors without even stopping. Barkley signaled the officers in ambush to be ready and went to the bank with Woods. There was no one inside, just as they agreed with the manager. Detectives followed the robbers almost to the vault, stopping behind the corner. Woods took out a pocket mirror so they could see what was going on. The huge man and another one took 2 steps back, while the third came close to the vault doors and took off one of his gloves. There was a big and scary crab claw underneath, with its smaller part lifted like a trigger. The man directed his mutated arm at the door. The claw snapped. There was a blinding flash, and an ear-splitting boom made both detectives clap their hands to the ears. When they could see and hear again, they saw the vault door was torn again and still smoldering. The robbers came inside, and a shout rang from within. "Freeze!" A special group was set in the vault every night. They all had bombardier beetle powers. As the criminals turned to run, 4 streams of reddish liquid flew onto their backs. A huge man, Steele, came last and took all the impact on himself. He was thrown face first on the floor. His accomplices ran to the corner and straight into the detectives. Blythe tore off his face mask and spat, aiming at Woods' face, but missed and fell on the floor. Barkley saw Woods was standing with her mouth wide open. She was shouting Blythe down with ultrasound. The leader of the gang squeezed past them and went on running. Barkley rushed after him. As the criminal ran out the entrance doors, he was surrounded by armed officers, demanding him to raise his hands. Barkley saw him stop and do as he was told, but when he realized why, it was already too late. He leaped behind some desk and covered his ears hard. The claw snapped again, sending a pulse of light and a thunderous crack all over the place. The officers screamed and fell on the ground. The gang leader made for the gap in their lines, his claw slowly getting into the armed position on the go. Barkley gave chase and requested backup from the station. They ran for almost half a mile, zigzagging through the neighborhood and climbing over obstacles. The criminal surprisingly agile despite his clumsy claw. But at one turn, he suddenly stopped and was lifted off the ground, falling on his back. It was the dragonfly officer Barkley sent out earlier. He hooked the robber from above and threw him down. Barkley only managed to shout, "Take cover!" when he saw, as if in slow motion, the wicked claw raise again and close with a snap. The burst made him blind and deaf for a second, and Barkley stumbled, but he stayed on his feet and body-slammed the culprit, who was about to get away again. The dragonfly officer was lying nearby, stunned but safe. Barkley got the criminal from behind, took him by the wrists, and let him loose after a second. The robber tried to run but fell face first, unable to unstick his hands from one another. They were covered in thick silvery wire. "Pistol shrimp, eh?" Barkley asked, panting but grinning. "Well, I'm a bark spider, and you better not mess with the likes of me. Come on, I'll get you to the station." So, it's amazing how smart bumblebees are. Despite having brains the size of a poppy seed, these little insects have incredible intelligence. Recently, researchers discovered that bees have emotions and might even be sentient. For example, they can show signs of anxiety in scary situations, like a simulated predator attack. They become hesitant and cautious, even avoiding perfectly safe flowers. This indicates they might have feelings similar to what we call emotions. They can also feel discomfort and pleasure. Scientists train bees to associate colors with rewards and surprises. When the bees got a surprise treat, they acted happier and more resilient. Hey, don't you? They also put bees in situations where they had to choose between discomfort and rewards. The bees showed they could weigh the options and make decisions based on what they felt. This suggests they might experience discomfort just like we do. They can even display complex emotions like optimism, frustration, and playfulness. And these are not the only surprises bees showed us. Bees are more than just honeymakers and pollinators. There are over 25,000 different species of bees worldwide, each with its own unique lifestyle. They live in a sensory world that's totally different from ours, seeing things in ultraviolet and polarized light. They can even sense the Earth's magnetic and electrical fields. This helps them figure out which flowers have already been visited by other bees. A big moment in bee evolution happened way back in the Jurassic period. Their ancestors decided to switch from wandering around to settling down in nests. This change required them to remember the location of their home base, or else they'd be in big trouble. So their brains adapted, and certain areas grew larger and more complex to handle all the new information. And now, millions of years later, they've turned into incredibly smart creatures. They can even solve math puzzles. Boy, I could have used some bees in middle school. Yeah, that's right. Bees seem to grasp the concepts of addition and subtraction. Researchers set up special math mazes shaped like the letter Y for the bees to navigate. Instead of using numbers or symbols, which bees can't understand, they used colors. Blue meant add 1, and yellow meant subtract 1. The bees had to choose the right path based on the colors they saw at the beginning of the maze. After some training, where the bees completed 100 trips through the mazes, they seemed to get the hang of it. Then came the test. The little insects got the correct answer more often than not, better than what you would expect by chance. This doesn't mean bees are doing complex math in their heads, but they might have flexible brains that can learn new tasks, even if they don't use them in the wild. They also showed an understanding of the concept of zero. Scientists trained them to recognize the smaller of two numbers. They showed the bees pictures with different numbers of shapes, rewarding them with sweet sugar water if they chose the picture with fewer shapes. But if they went for the picture with more shapes, they got a bitter taste of quinine. Yuck. Once the bees got the hang of it, the researchers introduced a new option, a blank picture with no shapes at all. And the bees chose the empty picture over images with 2 or 3 shapes almost half the time. This suggests that they understood that 0 means less than 2 or 3. In further tests, the bees showed they could tell the difference between 1 and 0. This might help them keep track of predators or find food sources more efficiently. And if bees can understand 0, who knows how many other animals out there can do the same? Not only can bees learn and remember new things, but they can also teach these things to each other, just like we do. Scientists set up a tricky puzzle box in a lab and trained some bumblebees to solve it. First, expert bees figured the puzzle out. Then, they taught their clueless buddies how to crack it. Turns out, not only humans can pass on knowledge in this way. In another experiment, bees were given a puzzle to solve over several days. Despite having plenty of time to crack it, they couldn't do it without a little human help. But once they saw the solution, they were quick to catch on. It's also discovered that if there's a super genius bee in the group, its clever ideas might stick around and shape their societies for generations, surprisingly similar to humans. Even behaviors we thought were purely instinctive, like the famous honey dance, seem to be influenced by social learning. Bees can even be taught to use tools, a skill previously thought to be limited to certain mammals, birds, and other creatures. They devised a test where bees had to move a tiny ball to the center of a platform to get a sweet reward. Bees don't do stuff like this in the wild, so biologists had to teach them. Using a plastic bee on a stick, the researchers demonstrated the task to the bees. After a few days of training, the bees began dragging the ball to the center all by themselves. And once again, they showed other bees how to do it. What's interesting is that they didn't just copy blindly. When faced with new situations, they improved on what they had learned, choosing the most efficient route to success. For instance, when given a choice between different colored balls, the bees picked the one closest to the center, even though they had been trained with different conditions. This shows that bees aren't just following instructions, they're thinking and adapting to new challenges. Now, we used to think of bees as a homogeneous workforce. It's a huge hive mind, where everyone is tirelessly serving their queen. But this view is also being challenged by fascinating new research. Turns out, honeybees have distinct personalities. For example, some bees are more adventurous, while others prefer to stay close to the hive. A small percentage of bees, known as nest scouts, exhibit a thrill-seeking behavior by venturing out in search of new hive locations. These brave scouts are not only more likely to seek out new nest sites, but also to engage in food scouting. And there are huge differences in gene activity in the brains of scouting bees compared to their non-scouting counterparts. The brains of scout bees showed heightened activity in reward systems. That's where their preference for novel experiences comes from. It's very similar to novelty-seeking behavior in humans and other animals. Sometimes their personalities are even shaped by their memories and previous experiences. Some bees even showed signs of PTSD. So, in the hive, bees choose their jobs based on their personality traits. They can also be trained to detect any smell. They have a huge sensitivity to volatiles, and thanks to that, they can even detect diseases. Bees were trained to associate the scent of infected samples with a sugar-water reward. With repeated exposure, the bees quickly learned to extend their tongues in response to the scent alone, without the need for a reward. Thanks to that, they were able to detect infected samples within seconds. This worked with both mink and human samples. They showed very accurate results in distinguishing between infected and healthy samples. Now, we're trying to scale up this innovative approach and develop prototypes of machines capable of automatically training multiple bees simultaneously. This technology has the potential to serve as an effective diagnostic system, especially in low-income countries. And there are many more things bees can do. They can learn while sleeping, which means they can dream and see dreams of things they saw during the day. They can also remember human faces. They memorize unique features and can recognize them through repeat interactions. In one study, scientists paired images of human faces with sugar water and found that bees recognized and remembered faces associated with the sweet reward, even when the reward was absent. This also helps them to recognize each other and return to flowers that produce more pollen. So, what does this mean for us? Well, if it's true that bees actually feel emotions and have some sort of sentience, this changes how we should treat them. They're already an endangered species, Now we should treat them with much greater care. So, be careful around the bees. Now, it's obvious who can win a fight between a bee and a giant hornet. It's like a battle between a kitten and a saber-toothed tiger. And an army of bees against an army of hornets is like hundreds of kittens against hundreds of lions. It seems the hornets will win because one hornet can destroy more than 1,000 bees in less than an hour and a half. But if this battle happens in real life, it will be more complicated, dramatic, and unexpected than you can imagine. A group of bees works all day. They pollinate plants and fruits and collect nectar from flowers. They work hard and return home to the hive at the end of the day. They don't notice an imposter flying among them, a giant hornet. It's bigger than one bee, but has the same yellow-black color. No one pays any attention to it. The imposter enters the bee house without an invitation and makes a crackling sound. That's how its jaws snap. Hungry and angry, it begins the feast. In a matter of seconds, the hornet puts the hive into chaos. The hornet has a sting with toxic venom, but it can go without it here. For bees, the monster uses its sharp jaws. The hive citizens attack the enemy, but it doesn't feel a thing. The situation is getting worse because bees can't live after using their sting. They sacrifice their lives to protect their home, to protect the queen. Unfortunately, all their attempts are in vain. After quenching its thirst, the hornet flies away to find new prey. Only one bee manages to survive. It escapes from the hive to warn the others. The bee visits every hive in the valley and reports the powerful enemy. All bees start preparing to attack. They're raising an army. Unfortunately, this is not enough. The giant hornet visits a new hive, but this time bees are ready. They attack the enemy from all sides. For a moment, it seems bee stings are working. The hornet is weakening, its activity is falling. The hope of victory inspires bees with confidence, but not for long. At this moment, 10 other hornets fly into the hive. The first hornet marked the hive with a unique pheromone before the battle. This smell attracted its friends, and now the bees have no chance. In the wild, hornets leave the trace so others can find the tagged location. In a few minutes, 11 hornets destroy the hive of 25,000 bees. Recently, this sunny land was blooming thanks to bees. Now it has turned into a lifeless valley. Giant hornets don't want to spend time searching for hives, so they divide into groups and fly to different sides of the valley. They mark bee houses with the pheromone and start a large-scale cleanup. Their hunger and thirst for destruction are insatiable. Yeah, bees now know their enemy and notice it as soon as a hornet appears in the air, but it doesn't help. In each battle, they use a lot of strategies to fight it. Once bees tried to attack a hornet hive, but it was a pointless mission. No one pollinates flowers anymore. No one makes honey. Bees live in fear and are afraid to fly out of their hives. In this dark hour, when almost no hope's left, a slight chance of victory appears. A species of Japanese bees learned to defeat the enemy. The news spread all over the hives. The strategy seems to be working. They've managed to fight off several giant hornets. The fear goes away, and the bees are ready to fight again. In the real world, these bees learn to fight giant hornets, but other species can't do that. So bees are waiting for the enemy. They all know what to do. Finally, a giant hornet appears. Hundreds of bees attack it and wrap it with their bodies from all sides. They completely cover the hornet and start to tremble. The simultaneous vibration of all the bees heats up the enemy. The temperature is getting higher. The hornet can't get out. Bees seem to burn it with the energy of their bodies. A few minutes later, the giant hornet falls. Bees throw it out of the hive. Now they are confident of their victory. Another hornet arrives. Tired bees attack it and start to vibrate again. The next monster is coming, and another one. 10, 20, 100 hornets arrive. Bees don't have so many resources and energy. The chances to win are zero again. To win once and for all, the bees must unite. All the hives, hundreds of millions of bees. A huge, lifeless meadow is the location for the final battle. All the bees of the valley flock here. They are ready for the last fight. Silence ensues. Then the air begins to vibrate. You can hear the buzzing of hornets from afar. They have increased their population hundreds of times because none of the animals can resist them. The defeat of bees is inevitable, but no one is going to back down. Two swarms collide with each other. This is not a battle. This is destruction. Hundreds of thousands of bees, but 0 hornets fall to the ground in a few minutes. A whole species of insects are disappearing from the planet. But what is it? The field plugs into a strange fog. Bees and hornets don't see each other. Then, through the white veil, they appear. Silhouettes of giant creatures. They come into the middle of the action. Thousands of hornets attack them, but it's all pointless. Bees quickly fall down and lose consciousness. The hornets pass out too. Some are trying to fly away, but the fog doesn't let them. All insects fall asleep. Someone used gas to stop this fight. And this someone is the bee's main ally. A human has come into the game. In thick protective suits, people picked up euthanized hornets from the ground. They put them in one basket and the bees in another. The collection of insects lasts for several hours. Then the bees wake up in their hives unharmed. Hornets wake up in special containers. They're trapped, and now they can't hurt anyone. People are destroying hornets' nests all over the world. They won't allow them to multiply. Bees are responsible for the cycle of life in nature. They help many plants to reproduce, thanks to pollination. Bees serve as berries and fruits we eat. They take care of flowers that cows and other livestock feed on. Thanks to bees, we grow a lot of cotton. If the hornets destroy them, there will be a shortage of clothes made of this material. T-shirts, jeans, jackets, all this will be more expensive and then will disappear from the markets. Many products will lose their rich taste and useful properties. Animals and people won't get enough vitamins. Cows won't produce milk. There will be no cheese, sour cream, butter, and other food. You won't be able to order a juicy burger at the restaurant. Eggplants, hot peppers, kiwi, blueberries, cranberries, and much more will disappear from the counter. Whole species of animals and plants will stop existing. This will lead to other crises, not only in agriculture, but also in the global economy. Meanwhile, the number of hornets will be growing. There are almost no animals in the world to control them. If people don't do anything, everyone will have to wear thick protective suits to walk outside. Hornets will get into houses and cars, attack people and pets. One giant hornet can cause a lot of trouble. Its sting is one of the most dangerous and painful among all other insects. It's like a red-hot needle. When a hornet sticks it into an opponent, it injects the poison into the skin. This toxin dilates the walls of blood vessels. The area around the bite turns red. This can last for several hours or even days. The hornet is an aggressive creature. It can sting several times. Imagine what a group of these insects can do. To escape, you need to hide in bushes with dense foliage or jump into the water. After the hornets fly away, urgently contact the hospital. Hornets can make people's lives worse. It's important to fight them. Unfortunately, bees can't do this. They're absolutely defenseless. Humanity is aware of this danger and does everything to control the hornets' population. That's why giant hornets have no chances in this fight. Now, every bee returns to its usual way of life: pollination, nectar extraction, honey production in hives. The valley is blooming again. Bees can sleep peacefully. People monitor the situation and watch for giant hornets. If one enemy appears, it means there's a nest somewhere. Special services track down the insects and find nests under old trees and in pits.
When you first see this creature, it may seem to you that this is a flying sapphire. The blue-banded bee is as beautiful as this gem. These flying beetles have turquoise stripes instead of yellow. Their huge green eyes resemble emeralds. And their thin brown wings look like layers of cellophane with engraved patterns. Appearance is not the only thing that distinguishes them from ordinary bees. The blue-banded ones are singles. They don't move in swarms and don't live in large nests. These beetles like settling in small burrows in the soil or crevices in rocks. Another cool difference between our blue guys and ordinary bees is their unique way of pollination. Scientists call it buzz pollination. The blue bee sits on the flower, holds it tightly, and begins to shake the whole body. It creates a series of small, fast vibrations. This way, the bee also shakes the flower, quickly and gently. These movements make the pollen move out of the anther. Then the bee stops and collects all this pollen. Some scientists think these bees prefer pollinating purple flowers. This helps the blue bees blend in with the plant and remain unnoticed by enemies. But this theory hasn't been proved yet. The blue-banded bees mainly inhabit the territory of Australia. They are an important element in the agriculture of this country. These bees work with tomatoes, cranberries, eggplants, blueberries, kiwi, and chili peppers. Ordinary bees can't pollinate most of those plants, but their blue relatives can. On a global scale, more than 8% of plants in the world need to be pollinated through buzz pollination. That's why farmers love and protect blue-banded bees so much. Wasps and bees are very similar in appearance. Sometimes they can be difficult to tell apart, but their lifestyle is totally different. Bees are quiet beetles that spend all their time pollinating plants, collecting nectar from flowers, and making honey. We can say that bees are small, powerful trucks, but wasps are racing supercars. They are more aggressive, much faster, and more maneuverable in the air. Their stings are more painful. Yes, they can also carry pollen from one plant to another and feed on nectar, but their main mission is to control the population of insect pests, such as aphids and some species of caterpillars. According to some estimates, wasps manage to get rid of more than 14,000 tons of insects in the UK alone during one summer. Imagine how much they do all over the world. Wasps are dangerous beetles, but among them, there is one kind that is distinguished by its peaceful nature and lifestyle. This is the mud dauber wasp. It also has a black and yellow coloring, but it looks more elegant. A swarm of regular wasps is controlled by the queen, but mud daubers are solitary creatures. They build a small nest of mud in which they live with their children. A mud dauber will bite only if it's in danger. Unlike other wasps, these insects only use their venom to paralyze spiders, flies, and caterpillars. Then, they bring them to their nest to feed their children. So don't be surprised if you see a large horde of paralyzed spiders inside the nest. There can be more than 500 bugs in one nest. When little wasps hatch from eggs, they immediately begin their feast. The most unfriendly wasp species is the hornet. They are also wasps, but bigger, angrier, and with an even more painful bite. Its bite is one of the most dangerous among all insects. This critter can grow to be the size of a thumb. That's 3 times as large as a regular bee. Hornets attack in a huge swarm and pose a great danger to any animal. To fight them, people wear thick protective suits that resemble spacesuits. But the worst thing is that hornets invade hives and reduce the bee population. This can lead to a catastrophe on a planetary scale, since bees pollinate more than half of all fruits, vegetables, grains, and nuts in the world. Look at this big buzzing bumblebee. There's something wrong with it. It lands on a flower. And wait a minute. This is not a bumblebee at all. It's some kind of green-orange beautiful beetle. Oh, now it takes off and looks like a bumblebee again. Meet the pellucid hawk moth. Thanks to its color and transparent wings, it creates the illusion of a bumblebee. The wings of most insects serve for thermoregulation. They warm their body. Other insects have wings that help them fight enemies. A butterfly manages to look like a large creature, thanks to the pattern on its wings. Some insects communicate using vibrations created by their wings. Colored wings have many different purposes, but the pellucid hawk moth has transparent wings, and their main function is to avoid reflecting sunlight. These fast-moving transparent wings practically don't shine in the light and tone down the color of the beetle. Thanks to this, when the moth is flying, other insects perceive it as a bumblebee and are afraid to attack it. These bumblebee copycats are found in Africa, India, Southeast Asia, and Australia. At the beginning of life, they are bright green caterpillars that feed on coffee and pomegranate leaves. From afar, it may seem that a hamster is sitting on the trunk of a tree, but this is actually the southern flannel moth. It's large and covered with thick fur. Don't try and pet it if you don't want to go to a hospital. There are many poisonous thorns hidden inside this fur coat. Even a light prick can make you experience lots of unpleasant sensations. Other insects that pretend to be bees and wasps are hoverflies. They look like wasps, fly like wasps, and imitate a wasp's sting. But their coolest ability is copying bee buzzing. In reality, though, hoverflies are fragile, harmless creatures. Their ability to transform into bees is essential for their survival, and it works great. Many animals and insects are afraid to approach these skillful actors. But in the entire animal world, lyrebirds get the title of the most talented imitators. These small birds, with large, beautiful tails resembling a lyre, live in Australia. Imagine getting lost in a forest far away from a big city. Suddenly, you hear the sound of a chainsaw. You don't see people, but the sound is getting closer. Then you hear the clicking of a camera shutter. But there are no people with cameras around. Lyrebirds create all these sounds. Thanks to all the complex muscles of their syrinx, they can mimic the sound of almost anything. Some people heard these birds imitating human speech. Also, they are good forest designers. Female lyrebirds build domed nests on the ground, in stumps and caves. They usually lay one egg there and take care of the baby for the first 6 to 10 weeks. Let's go down from the sky to the ocean to see other tiny creatures. Meet blue-ringed octopus. This little guy looks so small and cute. Its bright neon color and blue rings are visible from afar. The octopus can easily fit in your palm, but it's better not to touch it. Meeting a great white shark may not be as dangerous as encountering this tiny creature. It's one of the most treacherous sea inhabitants in the world because of its venom. One bite can knock down a huge African elephant. The octopus is much more dangerous than a king cobra or a black widow spider because its bite often goes unnoticed. You may not feel or see when it stings you, and when you realize that something is wrong, it may be too late. Also, there's no antidote to the blue-ringed octopus's venom. The creature's salivary glands are home to bacteria that produce this venom. The same substance is found in the venom of pufferfish. When it enters the human body, it paralyzes the entire nervous system. The lungs stop contracting to supply the body with oxygen. The only good news is that this octopus is unlikely to attack first. The last recorded case when this creature charged at people was in the 60s. The blue-ringed octopus lives in the Pacific and Indian Oceans, from the coast of Japan to Australia. They spend most of their time in tide pools and coral reefs. Now we move to the hot sands of the southeastern U.S. states. You can find fire ants here. Outwardly, they don't differ much from regular bugs. But people call them fire ants because of their bite. Their poison resembles a flame. You're likely to feel the bite site burning. Therefore, it's better not to touch them and go away before any of these ants crawl into your pants.
Ouch! There's hardly a person who's never been stung by a bee. It's definitely not a pleasant feeling. But bees aren't normally angry creatures. You probably just scared the little guy. These insects are super important for pollination. Their existence is one of the main reasons why our plants keep growing. Bees only sting when they feel threatened. If you get stung, it might mean you've come too close to them. Or, more importantly, that you've come too close to their hive. Each hive can hold between 50,000 to 80,000 honeybees. Just like us humans, bees do everything to protect their home. But instead of alarms and complicated security systems, they use their stingers to ward off enemies. When honeybees sting, they release something called a pheromone. Pheromones are chemical substances that affect the behavior of animals of the same species. If one bee charges at you, the pheromones are likely to stir up all nearby bees, and they will readily join in. That's one meeting you'll definitely want to avoid. Here's a fun fact. It's only female bees that can sting. Larger male drone bees don't even have stingers. This is because the stinger is basically a modified egg-laying device. Queen bees also have stingers. These bees are bigger than the average worker. The queen has an average size of just under 1 inch. It's about twice the size of your regular worker bee. Because of its large size, Many people think that the queen bee's sting hurts the most. So let's dive into it. First of all, queen bees rarely sting because of their job in the hive. The queen is the most important bee in the colony, as it's the only female that can reproduce. The queen has two main jobs in the hive. Number one, she produces chemical scents that help unify the rest of the bees so they can work together. Number two, she lays a lot of eggs, up to 2,000 a day. The queen is surrounded by worker bees who meet her every need at all times. They give her food. The attendant workers also collect and then distribute the queen's pheromones, which stops the workers from finding a new queen. But despite being the head of the hive and being much bigger than other bees, the queen's sting is actually the least painful. This is because regular bees have barbed stingers. This means that when they attack, the stinger gets stuck in your skin, making it really difficult to remove. The stinger also contains nasty venom that's packed with proteins. That's what causes the pain and affects your immune system and skin cells. The stinger continues to pump venom into your body for more than 10 minutes, or until it gets removed. But unlike workers, queen bees leave the hive very rarely. Their main job is to lay eggs, and it's down to the rest of the colony to protect the hive and the queen. That's why worker bees are the ones with the most powerful sting. This is how they can ward off potential dangers. The only reason the queen would really need to defend herself is against rival queens. Because of this, the queen has no need to develop a nasty stinger. Hers is instead a lot smoother. This means that the barbs don't get stuck in your skin, which can be mega uncomfortable. While this might sound good, it does come with a bit of bad news. Because of the smoothness of its stinger, the queen can jab you multiple times. The stinger is attached to the bee's digestive tract, nerves, and muscles, all of which are essential for the bee to function normally. When workers sting, they're unable to pull their stinger out because of the barbs, and when they try to get free, it doesn't end well for them. But the queen's stinger doesn't get stuck. That's why the bee doesn't feel any negative consequences. And still, she'll basically only sting you if she doesn't have one of her bodyguards nearby, which is highly unlikely. So, what's the worst place to be stung by a bee? A man called Michael Smith decided to find out. He got stung on 25 different body parts and rated each prick on a pain scale between 1 and 10. He found out that the most tender area was the nostrils, scoring a 9 out of 10, followed by the upper lip, which he estimated as an 8.7. The three least painful locations were the skull, middle toe tip, and upper arm. All of these scored a 2.3. But moving back to the queen, how does a regular bee gain this title? The queen bee rarely needs replacing, as she can live for a whopping 5 years. At the same time, a worker bee born in the summer usually only survives for about 6 weeks. But if the queen passes away or moves to another hive, the colony needs to replace her. Doing this requires something called royal jelly, which nurse bees produce in their heads. They feed it to newly hatched honeybee larvae. It's basically a superfood that contains loads of useful stuff, including vitamin B, proteins, hormones, and sugars. After feeding baby bees for 3 days, workers select just a few larvae and continue giving them the royal jelly. The others will have a less nutritional diet. The royal jelly triggers new phases of development for these growing bees, and one of the most important is growing special organs they need to lay eggs. But people still don't fully understand how this process works. Some scientists say that it's not the royal jelly itself that causes a bee to turn into a queen. They think it's the exclusion of other natural plant-based chemicals from the queen's diet. But even though we aren't 100% sure how these special bees appear, we do know why there's just one queen in the end. When the first queen emerges, she searches for the other bees who've been fed the same royal jelly. And then, she wipes out the competition. If several queens emerge at the same time, it's time to grab your popcorn. They'll Hunger Games it out in a dramatic fight until only one remains. And that's how bees get their queen. Other bees in the hive also have important jobs. These include foraging for food, tending to young larvae, and building a honeycomb. Drones, or male bees, have one singular job. They mate with the queen. And when they're not trying to mate, They eat from honey reserves and do pretty much nothing. Female bees, or worker bees, do everything else. They keep the hive clean, take care of larvae, tend to the queen, store honey, build cells, forage, guard the nest, pollinate, and even feed male bees. Each bee knows exactly what job to do. That's because their specific hormones activate parts of their genetic makeup that tell them what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. Bees have 4 job phases in their lifetime. Phase 1 starts about 3 weeks after they get born. That's when they get to work cleaning the cells from which they've emerged. 3 days later, they enter Phase 2. In this phase, they're in charge of feeding other bees. This lasts for about a week. Then they enter Phase 3. They move further away from the hive center and become handy helpers. They build the honeycomb and guard the hive's entrance. This period also lasts for around a week. After that, they enter the 4th and final phase, the foraging stage. It's definitely the most dangerous part of our stripy friends' lives. This is where they leave the nest, look for pollen, bring it home, and feed the colony. They also leave a stinky footprint on the flowers they touch when collecting pollen. This way, they can figure out if their bee relatives have been here or if it's been a stranger. Sometimes they discover their own footprints. Unbelievable! This phase doesn't last very long though, only around 10 days, as it makes bees super tired. After such a short life, where they work non-stop, worker bees then leave the hive to never return. At the same time, if a worker passes away inside the hive, special undertaker bees carry this bee out. But while bees' lives may be short, this pattern seems to be working out quite well for the species. After all, they've been around for over a whopping 130 million years, and counting.
Bees first appeared on Earth 130 million years ago, and they outlived dinos. What helped them survive for so long is an incredibly complex structure of their society and teamwork. Each bee has its own role and responsibility. Some of them build and repair their home, some bees protect it, others clean the hive and get food. But what if you could sneak into a hive and figure out how this whole system works? What would you see inside? For some mysterious reason, it's easy for you to get past the guards. But if you were a bee from another colony, they wouldn't let you in without a fight. The guard bees look rather intimidating. They stand on their back 4 legs at the hive's entrance, their front legs raised in the air. These bees inspect every insect entering the hive with their antennae and front legs. Each hive has its own odor, and the guards can understand if a bee belongs to their colony by smelling it. Only the bees that live in the hive can get inside. Suddenly, you see something strange. One of the guard bees has detected an intruder. An alien bee must have mistakenly tried to enter the wrong hive. But it's carrying a load of nectar, and the guard lets it in. Apparently, they don't mind accepting free gifts of food, even from strangers. You feel too curious to linger there any longer. The hive has only one entrance. You notice that the walls around it look strange. You take a closer look and understand that it's coated with a thin layer of some substance. It's propolis, hardened plant resin produced by bees. It helps fight infections and cures different health problems. A bit further, you can see countless honeycombs. They're densely packed hexagonal cells made of beeswax. Bees use them to store food, pollen, and honey. That's where they keep eggs, larvae, and pupae. Honeycombs are fixed to the walls of the hive. They stretch from top to bottom and are even attached to the sides. But you spot narrow passageways along the comb edges. Bees use them to move around the hive. You might also be able to squeeze through one of these tunnels. After exploring the place, you figure out that bees store honey in the upper part of the comb. Beneath, there are cells that contain pollen. Then, there are cells used for keeping eggs with future worker bees. And at the very bottom, there are drone eggs. Of course, your ultimate goal is to see the queen bee, but it's not that easy to find her. First, you come across lots of other bees. Most of them are workers. They make up the largest part of the hive's population, and they're all ladies. Each of them has its own task. The most common of them is foraging. You spot a bee leaving a hive and decide to follow it. The queen can wait a bit. You want to see how bees provide food for the hive. The bee is buzzing ahead of you. After visiting a couple of flowers, it suddenly starts wiggling while hovering in one place. Ah, that's the famous bee dance. That's how bees communicate. Once a forager finds a perfect supply of nectar, it starts to perform a very precise dance. It consists of a series of straight lines and figure eights. Throughout the dance, the bee is also shaking its wings. How long the dance lasts means how far away from the hive the nectar is. Every 75 milliseconds is another 330 feet to the distance, and how intense the dance is depends on the richness of the source of the nectar. The stronger the waggle is, the more nectar the bee has found. And there's also the angle of the dance. It shows the direction of the nectar in relation to the sun. Your bee must have found tons of nectar. It's practically vibrating. Suddenly, it starts flying back to the hive. You follow it. There, the bee does a shake dance in front of the other worker bees. This is how it tells other bees they need to go foraging right away. You decide to stay behind and just watch what will happen. Soon, the bees return. They've brought back a lot of nectar that needs to be ripened into honey. Your bee does a tremble dance this time. It's shaking its legs in a way that makes its body tremble all over. This little dance makes other workers get down to process the nectar. It's time for you to resume your search. You dive back into the hive and begin to squeeze through small passageways. You come across the cells where worker bees begin their lives as eggs. It takes a bee 21 days to develop from an egg into a full-grown worker. The first task of this new worker is to clean the cell where it grew. The cell then becomes a nursery for a new egg, and the bee looks after this egg. Later, it feeds the larva and keeps it warm. During the next stage of its life, when it's 12 to 20 days old, the bee starts doing chores around the hive. It produces wax, stores pollen and nectar, builds the comb, guards the entrance, and so on. When the bee turns 20 days old, it becomes a forager. It looks for and delivers pollen, nectar, and tree resin to make propolis. The bee also brings water. Bees need it for drinking and cooling the hive. At one point, you see something that looks like a hospital room. There, worker bees look after those that feel unwell. The doctors bring them different types of honey depending on their infection. If there's no other way, they remove a sick bee from the hive. It helps to prevent the entire colony from getting ill. And then there are also temperature control bees. The temperature in the hive is usually around 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It's crucial to keep it this way, not hotter, not colder. Otherwise, the eggs won't hatch. You see a group of bees and instantly understand they're temperature bees. Apparently, the temperature in the hive has dropped, and now the bees are trying to warm it up. They're vibrating in a special way, which raises their body temperature, and you can feel the air around you become a bit warmer. And if they needed to cool the hive, they would go and gather some water droplets. Then they would bring this water on their backs. Once in the hive, the temperature bees would buzz their wings very fast, making the water evaporate and lower the temperature. You move further and soon come across a bee you haven't seen before. It has huge eyes, a large body, and no stinger. It's a drone, the only kind of male bee in the hive. Drones don't have any foraging tools either. Their only purpose is to mate with the queen and care for her. The drone's life isn't too long. For one thing, if this bee manages to mate with the queen, it never survives the process. And if there's a food shortage or winter is coming, worker bees usually kick drones out of the hive and don't let them back in. Wow, that's harsh. You keep going until you finally notice a nursery. There, you spot a bee that is twice the size of a worker bee. Your quest has come to an end. That's the queen. This bee is the most important one for the hive because it's the only bee that can lay eggs. Despite her title, the queen doesn't actually rule, and her brain is smaller than that of a worker bee. But she produces special pheromones that influence the mood of the entire hive. The queen also gives birth to every single bee in the colony. When the queen is still a larva, worker bees feed her royal jelly. That's a goop with super high sugar content. A larger cell, along with such a diet, leads to a bigger body and the future queen's ability to emit the pheromones. When the queen has mated with drones, she returns to the hive. 3 days later, she starts laying eggs and never stops. She works especially hard in the spring, laying one egg every 20 seconds. No wonder that later in the year, the colony already has a population of 30,000 to 60,000 bees. But wait, something strange is happening here. A group of worker bees, in fact lots of them, might be half the colony, leave the hive with the queen leading them. It means the colony has become too big. The queen goes outside for the first time since mating, and the whole swarm sets off in search of a new home. Back in the hive, a new queen hatches from an egg 8 days later. Harlequin beetle looks formidable, and it is. This bug's body reaches 3 inches in length, and its front legs are often even longer than that. They help it crawl on trees, getting from branch to branch, and males also use them to impress females. Ooh la la! Despite the looks, harlequin beetles aren't really dangerous. They won't bite you even if you corner them. And if you, by any chance, grow cabbage in your backyard, you probably would try to corner them. These bugs feed on its leaves. Still, better not to touch them with your bare hands. They exude a foul-smelling liquid that both stinks and stings, causing skin irritation. Wear those gloves, will ya? You know what also stinks? Now, besides my socks, squash bugs. If you have a garden patch, these pests can be more than just a nuisance. They could spoil the squash you've been lovingly growing for the fall, hence the name. And if you squash them, they begin to smell just awful, hence the pun. Squash bugs are also often mistaken for stink bugs, but those are even more notorious. They begin stinking even if you so much as touch them. Wow, sensitive. Giraffe weevil is probably the most harmless little fella on this list, but not much is known about it yet. It gets its name from the long, spiny neck. This adaptation helps them build nests and fight over other weevils for food and mates. It may be placid, but the red covering of its wings lets predators know the bug is either foul-tasting or poisonous, or both. Likewise, you shouldn't eat monarch butterflies or their caterpillars. These beautiful insects are often kept as pets and were once almost chosen as the national insect of the US. But the little-known fact is that they're highly poisonous. Monarchs feed on milkweed, a plant containing a potent toxin. They've acquired immunity to it, and, as a side effect, butterflies accumulate the toxin in their bodies. This makes them a very unappetizing dish for birds and other predators. The concentration is so high that even humans that accidentally, or not, eat a monarch caterpillar can experience quite unpleasant consequences. Mealworm beetles are abundant almost anywhere, so you must have seen them. The most probable place to find them is a poultry farm, though. Mealworm larvae are often used to feed farm birds, and that's where the danger lies. Mealworms carry lots of diseases that can spread among birds and then to humans. They also like to eat chicken food and even insulation on farms, so they're not the best choice of a meal for birds, despite their name. And adult beetles produce a poison that's not harmful in small doses but causes allergy in high concentrations. If you happen to be at a poultry farm, make sure you avoid those beetles. Tiger beetles come in lots of shapes and colors, but they all have 2 traits in common: long thin legs and sharp sword-like mandibles. Those legs allow them to run faster than almost any other insect. So fast, in fact, that when they're on a hunt, they sometimes have to stop and look around for a few seconds. Their eyes and brains simply can't process the picture quickly enough, so they wait for the landscape to load around them. Most tiger beetles are harmless, but if you see one with an orange pattern on its back, don't touch it. These bugs produce cyanide to protect themselves, and this chemical can do a lot of harm both to animals and people. If you touch a tiger beetle and then rub your mouth or eyes, it might cause severe irritation. Oh look! See that wonderful pattern on a flower over there? Looks like an impressionist painting, and in a sense it is. That's a Picasso bug. These critters feed on plants and are mostly placid, but think twice if you want to take a closer look. It's not a ladybug. When touched, it'll emit a strong odor that's not exactly flowery. Worse still, you might have a hard time getting rid of the stench even hours after the encounter. Whew! Walking out of a pine forest, you notice a weird movement right beneath your feet. It looks like a little fuzzy train that's several dozen feet long. In fact, it's a defense technique of pine processionary caterpillars. They travel nose to tail in large groups to protect each other. They look really particular, but trying to disrupt the column isn't the best idea. Each car of this natural train has hundreds of needle-sharp bristles. If you touch any of them with your bare hand, they'll first cause sharp pain and then some other unpleasant reactions. Predators don't like pine processionaries for the same reason. Asian giant hornets live mostly in Asian countries, but they were reported in North America in 2019. These beasts are big, yellow, and vicious. It's impossible to confuse a giant hornet with any other bee or wasp. They're much larger and a lot more aggressive. But the worst thing about them is their stinger, which is more than 3 times longer than that of a honeybee. The stinger contains a really potent venom, and several stings from an Asian giant hornet can bring down even a large animal and a human too. And if that wasn't enough, these creatures can even spray their venom, aiming at the eyes. Needless to say, that's an unforgettable experience. Lenomia is a rather unassuming little moth that doesn't pose a threat to anyone. But before it becomes a moth, it has to go through a caterpillar stage. And that's when you don't want to cross its path. Lenomia caterpillars are covered in hair-thin bristles that contain a powerful venom. But even if you know not to touch them, you still might get pricked. Caterpillars perfectly blend in with tree trunks to add to their protection. A person might unknowingly lean on a trunk with lenomias huddled on it, and they won't hesitate to stick those needles into the unlucky guest. If you get stung, immediately seek medical attention. Now, let's admit, all centipedes are terrifying, and perhaps one of the most horrible species is a Texas red-headed centipede. First of all, it looks like it's ascended from your deepest, darkest nightmares. A black sectioned body, dozens of yellowish legs that look more like claws, and a red head with 2 long horns. A picture enough to make me run for it in a split second. There I go. Being pretty large, these crawlers have a voracious appetite, munching on toads, lizards, and an occasional rat. Sometimes, when desperate, they can even catch a bat right in the middle of a flight. And of course, red-headed centipedes are venomous, fitting for such an appearance. Luckily, they're not interested in humans. And that's mutual. Now, this critter isn't large, but it's very defensive, meaning you don't want to cross it. Its name speaks for itself, the devil's coach horse. A total black bug that resembles an earwig. It will raise its behind and open its powerful jaws when threatened. This pose makes it look like a scorpion, and at this point, better back off. If you don't, the devil's coach horse will start to emit a foul stench and ooze unpleasant liquid from its mouth for defense. And if that doesn't scare you off, it will eventually bite, which is quite painful, you know. Just leave the beast alone, okay? Velvet ants aren't ants at all. They're a kind of wingless wasp that just look a lot like ants. These bugs don't form large colonies and usually live alone, hiding in tall grass. This behavior has given them another nickname, cow ants, because when a cow is grazing nearby, it might step on a velvet ant and get a painful bite in return. Humans also get bitten sometimes, especially if they walk barefoot. Velvet ants are venomous, but their venom is less potent than that of bees, so it's not really dangerous. Still, the pain from such a bite is serious. And if you want to squash this bug, good luck! They have an unusually tough carapace that protects them from other stinging insects and even birds. Puss moths get their name from their furry, fuzzy appearance. It's like they're little fluffy flying kitties. Moths might be cute, but their caterpillars, as always, should only be looked at, not touched. Despite the even fuzzier looks, a puss caterpillar is covered in thousands of hollow spines that break off the critter's back upon contact and inject their venom. And what a venom it is! Puss caterpillars are the most venomous caterpillars in the US. One sting of this little monster can result in days and even weeks of sickness. And if you're allergic to it, then I can only wish you best of luck.
Doink! What was that on your arm? A bee. Great. Not exactly a pleasant feeling. Painful, itchy, annoying, scary. We've all been there before. So, that happens because the bee jabs its barbed stinger into your skin and releases some venom. The venom contains proteins that cause pain and can affect your immune system and skin cells. But that's nothing compared to what the bee has to go through. Poor little thing. You'll be fine after a few hours, but the bee? Not so much. Honeybees don't usually sting people unless they feel threatened or if you accidentally step on them. The problem is that after stinging you, the bee can't pull its barbed stinger out of your skin. The only way to get free is to leave the stinger behind. The stinger, though, not just a sweet defense mechanism, it also contains part of the bee's digestive tract, nerves, and muscles that are, unfortunately, essential for the bee to function normally. So, yep, after losing all that, this tiny creature doesn't survive. Yikes. Poor little bee. Apart from that, they're such cool animals. They have 5 eyes, 2 pairs of wings, and 6 legs. Bees have excellent survival instincts, and they've been around for a really long time. 130 million years and counting. Who knows what ancient species they've stung? Most bees in the hive are called worker bees, and the big cheese is called the queen. She lays around 2,000 eggs per day. Sound like a lot? Well, the average hive contains 50,000 bees, and they disappear after just one sting. I guess going through a painful and itchy experience doesn't actually sound that bad when you only have one bee on your arm. Imagine if you had the whole hive. It may seem like bees just aimlessly fly around or use their vision to decide where they go. But these cool insects are pretty organized and rely on a super complex transport system. Imagine planning a cross-country road trip, only this time, there are no roads. I can't even make it to the gym without my GPS, or if I stop at a burger joint on the way there. But not bees. They're way cooler than us. They use bee lines. Well, I call them that. They're basically a series of insect pathways bees tend to follow through human towns or the countryside. These pathways link every existing wildlife area together. It's like a bee railway system. My favorite bee is the buff-tailed bumblebee. It has an oval-shaped body covered in dense hair and a brain the size of a poppy seed. Considering how small it is, that's really impressive. How smart are they? Scientists made an experiment where they trained a bunch of them to play bee soccer. They even learned how to score a goal in return for a sweet sugary treat. Unbelievable! These same bees have another amazing ability. They use their smelly footprints to distinguish between the scents of strangers, their own bee relatives. They can even recognize their own scent. Bumblebees, we know your dirty little secret. You have smelly feet. And then, there's the queen bee. She's unique in her colony, and her main task? Laying eggs. People often assume the queen is there to tell the other bees exactly what to do. Yeah, not really. She does have a certain influence, but even without her, the hive actually functions pretty well. Each bee has a job and knows its daily functions and tasks because of its instincts and the chemical signals it senses and uses. So, I guess no one needs to tell them how to behave. Those chemical signals are their way of communicating. Oh, and they know how to shake it. They wiggle their bodies at specific angles for a certain amount of time. That's how they send messages to each other. If something happens to the queen bee and she doesn't survive, worker bees create a new one. Yep, they don't find one, but sort of raise a new one. They choose a young larva and feed the future Her Majesty a special food called royal jelly. That lucky larva can now grow into the new queen. Bees are fast. They can beat their wings almost 200 times a second. Those 8 push-ups I can do in a minute, not sounding so impressive. Each bee produces around 1 teaspoon of honey in its lifetime. To produce 1 pound of honey, bees have to fly the equivalent of 1 whole time around the globe. These hardworking animals make around 100 million trips to about 200 million flowers to collect enough nectar for that pound of honey. Honeybees sleep 5 to 8 hours a day, and just like us, they rest at night. Their brains are pretty active when they're resting. Some scientists think they may be dreaming, also just like us. When winter rolls around, a lot of insects replace their body water with a special chemical called glycerol. It's a type of natural antifreeze that helps them stay alive in low temperatures. Bees, though, they just huddle together in the hive to stay toasty warm. Alright, enough about bees. Let's whip round the animal kingdom looking for crazy facts. Bats could eat 1,000 insects an hour if they were insanely hungry. They're the only mammal that can fly, and their bones are so thin, most of them can't even walk. Insects, for the most part, don't have ears on their heads. Instead, they have them all over their bodies.
Snails can sleep for 3 years without waking up. Slugs have 4 noses, so they better avoid those stinky feet bumblebees. Butterflies are quite simple and practical animals that taste with their feet and only feed on liquids. They're cold-blooded, so if it gets below 55 degrees, they can't fly, look for food, or escape a sticky situation. Their main defense tactic is camouflage. Works pretty well until it gets cold. The opposite strategy is having vibrant, colorful patterns that let everyone know where you are. Colorful insects are often toxic, so birds and bigger insects tend to leave them alone. Wasps recognize their relatives by identifying unique facial patterns. Ants don't have lungs. Instead, they breathe through small holes all over their bodies. Also, they almost never sleep, but they do love to nap. Ants are incredibly strong and can carry more than 50 times their own weight. If you were that strong, you'd be able to carry an adult elephant. You know, like if it's stepping on your toe and you want to get it off you. For every human, there are more than 1 million ants, and over 200 million insects. Luckily, they're smaller than us. If they weren't, we'd be the ants. You can hypnotize a frog if you place it on its back and gently stroke its stomach with your fingers. What if that worked on humans? Hey, wanna hang out? I know a sloth does. Its weird biology allows it to spend most of its life just hanging upside down from a tree. A sloth is so slow it takes around a month to totally digest food. Rhinos have horns made out of the same stuff as hair. Scientists trained pigeons to be able to tell the difference between famous artists Claude Monet and Pablo Picasso. Okay, wait. Even pigeons are smarter than me now? Just when you think pandas can't get any cuter, check this out. When they're born, pandas weigh around 4 ounces and are smaller than a mouse. Animals that have a super fast metabolism inside a small body, like squirrels do, see in slow motion. They evolved this feature to be able to escape bigger animals. That's cool. When you think about it, it really makes them powerful. Squirrels usually run away from their enemies by scampering off in a zigzag pattern. Because? No idea. Sorry, people. They tend to bury their food in many different places. Since it's impossible to keep an eye on all their hiding spots, other animals like to sneak over and steal their goods. That's why squirrels sometimes only pretend to bury their food somewhere, to throw off any potential thieves. Oh, how nutty of them. An ostrich has a brain smaller than its eye, but it has really strong legs. It can run faster than a horse. Flamingos only eat when their heads are turned upside down.
Oh no. Stop shouting.
Huh? You can speak? No! No, no, no!
Don't even try to escape. Wow. Okay, I got it. Jeez. No need to swing your fists here. These savages can't even eat in peace.
Daddy longlegs get a pretty bad rap. Someone started a rumor for some reason that of all the spiders in the world, the daddy longlegs are the most venomous. Of all the 45,000 species of spiders, daddy longlegs were at the top of the charts as the most potentially dangerous. Gifted with the most threatening venom towards humans, they acquired quite the reputation. But unfortunately, Their fangs also were too small to penetrate skin, so their amazing capabilities were deemed useless. Imagine having a superpower without the ability to use it. This fact might have come from someone's friend of a friend a long time ago, and unfortunately for old bouncy legs, the fact stuck. The daddy longlegs spider is recognized throughout the world, but its actual name is Falcidae, which is part of the Araneomorph family. The Falcidae consists of up to 1,800 individual species, all ranging in different sizes and variations, most having the distinct similar long bouncy legs with a small body. They are present on every continent of the world except Antarctica, but regardless of which part of the planet they're from, they all share that same supposed reputation of impressive venom, with no teeth to use it. The origin story of how their venom was recognized as so strong was that they were notorious all over the world for being able to remove other, more dangerous spiders. Any spider that was known to be threatening towards humans competed for territory with the daddy longlegs and lost. They defeated redbacks and black widows, even larger spiders like huntsmen. Every competitor was beaten. And for that reason, this ridiculous spider became the undisputed world champion. From the northern hemisphere to the south, from Australia to North America, in Africa, Asia, and all around Europe, the daddy longlegs took on all challengers, removing venomous spiders from households all over the world. As its reputation grew, it was portrayed that it must have the strongest venom, as no contender could match it. And there the legend rested. Actual facts were neglected, like cobwebs in the wind. But in fact, their venom is incredibly weak, so weak that it's not even very useful. It has little effect on the more venomous spiders, and is only useful towards smaller insect prey. But it does have a different, more impressive way of defeating all challengers in the spider world. Rather than bouncing over and trying to wrestle a foe awkwardly, the daddy longlegs casts its silk web onto its contenders from a distance, whilst keeping itself away from harm. Then, once it's safe, it ties them up until they're completely incapacitated. What's more, their own silk doesn't have any adhesive properties, so when they come for another spider, they usually roll it in its own sticky web. They're basically the cowboys of the spider world, coolly lassoing all dangers of the household, removing hazardous spiders and all other pesky insects. And for their selfless assistance, the only gratitude we've provided are urban legends about their supposed inadequacies, and a quick removal with a vacuum cleaner. It's a shame to remove the daddy longlegs from a house, as they are passive towards humans. They reside in dark and cool places, where moisture is more prominent, like a bathroom or a basement. Since they're predators, they will only live where there is a constant source of food. So if you see them in your house, then that's a good indication that you have a lot more types of bugs living in other, more inconspicuous locations. Understanding that there are more bugs under your hard-to-reach places, removing the daddy longlegs is effectively removing a bug remover, who not only works for free, but is a much more efficient hunter of bugs than your vacuum cleaner. They will not only remove the resident bugs, but all the hundreds of eggs that are hidden away, incubating, preparing to hatch in the near future. Perhaps the thought of them being a hunter may give you some apprehension of keeping them around, especially as you sleep. Further with the myth that a human inhales up to 10 spiders per year on average while sleeping. Since they don't mean humans any harm, there's no need to worry, especially given the difference in size. Predators generally won't attack anything they can't successfully take down, which won't be anything much larger than themselves. Given humans are over 1,000,000 times bigger in size, we just aren't worth the risk for any spider, even if we're sleeping. The myth that we eat spiders in our sleep is false. There is nothing for a spider to hunt for around a human. A giant, meaty, growling mountain is the last place to find a spider trying to find its dinner. But if you do have a bad case of arachnophobia and are brave enough, simply get an empty jar and a piece of paper. Carefully place the daddy longlegs in the jar and release it into the backyard. They're more than happy to live in the bark of trees or under rocks, protecting your garden from other insects. There are 3 types of daddy longlegs: the spider variety, the crane fly one, and the Apeliones, which are more related to scorpions than spiders. The Apeliones have helped provide confusion with their spider counterpart, sharing similar features, residing in the same parts of the world, and even known for the same misinformation. In particular, for the urban legend of being the most venomous. Not only do these not have any venom glands, but they don't even have fangs, just grasping claws. Due to these physical traits, they are restricted to prey on small insects. Though their diet partially contains bugs, they are omnivorous, also feeding upon plant material and fungi. So, the Apeliones are mainly found outdoors, unless you happen to be growing mushrooms in your basement. Their primary defenses are to avoid detection, camouflaging themselves in foliage whilst holding very still, and sometimes placing debris on top of themselves. Some species will have bright coloring to ward off predators, and others will have a similar appearance to other insects to create confusion, all in the hopes of avoiding becoming a meal. As they aren't strictly an aggressor in the wild, they have a multitude of secondary defenses to avoid conflict. Using their long legs, they might retract or stretch them to resemble becoming inactive and pointless in being attacked. Also, they might bob up and down with the objective to confuse, constantly moving their small body. They do this individually, and as they can live in very large groups, they will collectively move this way when threatened. Their long legs, although strange in appearance, are one of their best assets. As well as dancing defensively, they can also flee very effectively, bounding over obstacles with ease. Normally, when in groups, they will all scatter in different directions. Their best defense is their scent glands, providing a smelly shield to ward off predators, letting them know they won't be a tasty meal. Although they can't physically defeat any spiders, the scent gland defense is known to help avoid some of the most brutal of spider predators, such as the wolf spider. Another effective way to deter predators is the form of mimicry, quietly pretending to be another insect, and likely trying to appear like its spider counterparts. This act of defense has probably helped the confusion between the daddy longlegs species. The crane fly is the last of the three that represent daddy longlegs. It looks like a giant mosquito and lives in similar areas around marshes, rivers, and lakes. With the typical traits of its namesake, the long drooping legs, it's known as the worst flying insect. Its limbs are so large, it wobbles as it flies, looking like it's struggling to maintain its flight. The crane fly's larvae are also known as leather jackets due to their tough outer skin. They're very important in the soil ecosystem as they process organic material, increasing microbial activity. So why are they even called daddy longlegs? There isn't anything scientific behind the meaning. There was a mention of the crane fly back in 1744, referring to it as father longlegs. In the early 19th century, daddy longlegs had become a nickname for a person that was much taller than everyone else. Whether the name was originally made for tall humans or for long-legged flies, as time went on, all other insects and spiders around the world that had the similar physical traits, long legs with a small body, would also be referred to as daddy longlegs. I guess it was just easier that way.
Well, meet the tiny terrors of our world. Fire ants. When they sting, they inject venom that can cause serious trouble. For most people, it's just a fiery sensation in raised bumps. But for others, especially those who are allergic to it, it's life-threatening. These ants set up their camps right under your feet. They're quick to swarm and are fiercely protective of their colonies. They show no mercy to intruders. Their stings are rated about 1.2 on the Schmidt Insect Sting Index, where 4 is the maximum. It feels like a sudden jolt, but the sensations are less burning than when a bee stings you. They originated in tropical regions like Central and South America, but now you can find them even in some temperate zones like North America. In their colonies, fire ants have a strict hierarchy: a queen, winged males and females, and different types of workers. They communicate through chemicals and sounds. The most famous member of this genus is the red imported fire ant. They've come from South America and invaded the southern U.S. They build large mounds, making farming difficult and damaging crops. It's almost impossible to control them. And on top of that, there's now the rise of another invasive species, the tawny crazy ant. This one poses a threat to native ecosystems. Turns out ants can be dangerously unfriendly. Colorful blister beetles are among the 10 most dangerous insects in the world. Luckily, they're not lethal to humans unless they go for you in a big pack. However, they pose a serious threat to large animals, such as horses. Blister beetles produce a toxin called cantharidin, which causes skin blistering in humans. In the past, people believed it could treat warts and even rabies, and some even used it in love potions. However, it's a risky game. In the 1950s, a man was jailed for giving cantharidin-laced candies to 2 women, resulting in a tragic outcome. These beetles are not to be messed with. Handling them or ingesting them is very dangerous. They're attracted to alfalfa and hay. If a horse eats either of those, even a few beetles can release enough cantharidin to end it. This cute caterpillar from South America is called Lenomia obliqua, and it's the most dangerous caterpillar on Earth. It's responsible for several fatalities due to its potent venom. It's the larval stage of the giant silkworm moth. When it grows up, it becomes a beautiful and harmless silkworm. But if you see them as youngsters, it's better to stay away. Its toxicity stems from venom-injecting bristles. They serve as a defense mechanism against predators. The poison messes up how your blood clots and can cause really bad symptoms like burning feelings, throwing up, kidney problems, and sometimes even lethal outcomes. A single bite probably won't lead to anything horrifying. It delivers only a tiny amount of venom. But these caterpillars tend to congregate, and they're quite good at camouflage. This increases the risk of multiple stings. Locusts themselves aren't dangerous to humans. They're ordinary, loud grasshoppers. But they're infamous for their swarming behavior. These swarms often happen when there's a dry period with no rain, and then suddenly a lot of rain falls and plants start growing fast. Once it begins, it's nearly impossible to stop. They can become a destructive force within minutes. Throughout history, locust plagues have been devastating, wreaking havoc on crops and farmland. What's interesting is that the term locust can mean different things depending on where you're from. In some places, we're talking about cicadas, which are also known for their loud sounds. But true locusts are ancient creatures, relatively unchanged since the Triassic era. They're among the oldest insects on Earth. Wasps, hornets, and even bees can be extremely dangerous, especially to those allergic to their stings. The Asian giant hornet is the largest of the wasps. It can reach up to 2 inches in size. It packs a powerful venom that can cause serious discomfort and even spray into people's eyes. There's an even more venomous species in the Philippines called Vespa luctuosa, not to be confused with Expecto Patronum. Any Harry Potter fans? Anyway, fatalities because of wasps or bees are rare but not unheard of. In the UK, about 10 people pass away each year from bee or wasp sting reactions. Always stay cautious. All these insects are very territorial and will fiercely defend their hives. When provoked, they signal danger to nearby bees and instigate a mass defense effort. If you need to handle them, it's best to call professionals. A flea is tiny and humble, but it left a colossal impact on human history and health. They're not just annoying pests, they're notorious carriers of various human conditions and are responsible for some of the worst outbreaks in history. Back in the 14th century, I forget where I was, but the bubonic plague wiped out over 25 million people in Europe, and fleas were a big part of spreading it. Fleas spend their lives searching for warm-blooded hosts to feed on, whether it's reptiles, mammals, pets, or humans. Despite their tiny size and absence of wings, they make up for it with impressive jumping abilities. They can leap 6 feet and jump over 1,200 feet in the air. A flea bite might seem like a minor annoyance, causing itching and inflammation, but a lot of them can lead to anemia in their hosts. Of course, the most dangerous part about them is the viruses, bacteria, and worms they transmit. Kissing bugs mostly live in both Americas, with smaller populations in Africa and Asia. Despite the friendly name, they're great at passing on bacteria, viruses, and parasites. One of the parasites they carry is Trypanosoma cruzi. It's the culprit behind illnesses that affect millions globally and claim thousands of lives each year. What's interesting is that symptoms don't often appear until 10 or 30 years after being bitten. They typically manifest as heart failure, digestive issues, or nervous system problems. They don't actually kiss you, they suck on you and are attracted to their prey by breath. If you breathe through your mouth, you're a target. They're messy biters, often biting chaotically and almost uncontrollably, which only adds to their unsettling nature. Many have heard of the tsetse fly, an unusual and scary insect from tropical Africa. These flies are carriers of one of the most devastating human diseases, sleeping sickness. Similar to the kissing bug, the tsetse fly transmits trypanosomes, the parasites that cause sleeping sickness. They acquire this parasite from an infected host or from within the fly's own body. Sleeping sickness doesn't strike immediately. After a bite, it takes 1 to 3 weeks for symptoms to appear: fever, headaches, joint pains, and itchiness. As the illness progresses, it can invade the nervous system, leading to confusion, insomnia, and loss of balance. Without treatment, it can result in a coma and then a fatal outcome. Luckily, sleeping sickness